Well, let's get started. Let's get started. We can do some of the preliminary items, and then they'll fold into our meeting as they come. I call the meeting to order. Welcome. It's been a while since we've had a meeting. It feels like a year, but it's only been a couple weeks. Paul Dorian, welcome to our City Council meeting of July 22nd, 2025. Madam Clerk will have a roll call, please, with the idea that two other council members will be here, and we'll fold them into the meeting.
Okay. Mayor Doring.
Here.
Vice Mayor Deasy. Here. Councilmember Barrick.
Here.
Spataroto and Summers.
All right. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. All right, we're on to item 4, adoption of the agenda. I'll turn to Madam Clerk and Mr. Camelo to point out any need for change of the agenda or taking things off the agenda. I know we have a few minor changes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Staff would like to pull items 10.2 and 10.3 for some brief comments. We also would like to postpone from today's agenda 10.8 and 10.12. And when the consent item is read, I would like to make some corrections or updates on one of the items.
All right, thank you, Mr. Camelo. With those changes, I'll look for a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of adopting the agenda with the changes announced by Mr. Camelo?
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? See none, that is adopted. On to approval of the minutes. We have two sets of minutes. We're on item 5.1. We have minutes from June 10th, 2025 and June 24th, 2025. Madam Clerk, are there any corrections or notes that we need to know about?
There are none.
All right. I'll look for a motion to approve the minutes from June 10 and June 24th, please.
Motion to move the minutes for June 10th and June 24th.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor of approving those minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. That approval is made. Okay, on to public forum. Members of the public are entitled to speak on matters of municipal concern not on the agenda during public forum. Each person's comment shall be limited to 4 minutes. Each person is entitled to speak on any non-agendized item only once at any meeting. Brief questions by council members for clarifications may be posed and answered, and council members may make requests that items be placed on future agendas. But in accordance with state law, no substantive discussion or action may take place unless and until the matter properly appears on the agenda. I also want to note before I open that we have received a written public comment from Ms. Leslie Stanton. So I'll open public comment. Anybody wishing to address your city council tonight? Seeing none, I'll close public comment, bring it back to the council. Any comments here or requests under this item? Seeing none, I'll move on to item 7, reports by staff and city council, future agenda items, and AB 1234 reports. Mr. Camelo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things. One is I know that Assistant City Manager Leach would like to make a couple of comments about Crane Park. I have 2 announcements to make. One is that on August 19th, we'll be having the joint meeting of the Planning Commission and City Council. The topic is housing. As well, in the next couple of days, the residents will be receiving the water bill. And since we're in transition from one metric to the other, the graph will not be inserted this time, but it will appear next time. That's the only change.
Thank you, Mr. Camelo. Before we turn to Mr. Leach, I'll ask Mr. Walsh to report out on our closed session that was held immediately before this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, as you know, we had a special council meeting, closed session at 5 p.m. immediately before this meeting. The topic of the closed session was conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, and there's no reportable action from that item.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Walsh. Mr. Leach.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Just want to provide you a update on our seasonal paving project. Last week we did do the Crane Park parking lot. If you're wondering why there's an area that doesn't have pavement on it, well, that's happening this Thursday. And we are coordinating with both Bocce and other groups, and so it does not, Farmers Market, we're not impacting their operation. The other element to that particular project is the repaving of South Crane from Grayson all the way to Sulphur Spring. Yes, and they've started the work. It's down to one lane of travel, but we're assured by both the contractor, we haven't received any complaints yet for their operation, but they're going to be paving that next week. So it's all the prep work this week. And again, it's being widened and bike lanes are being added. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Why do you say yet?
Oh, well,
We're not going to receive any
it's
complaints,
paving.
Mr. Leach.
It's paving. We have an engaged public.
All right, we do. All right, thank you, Mr. Leach. I appreciate that. Any other items, Mr. Carmelo? All right, we'll move on to presentations of public recognitions. We're under 8.1 on our agenda. And the item tonight is proclaiming July as Parks and Recreation Month. We didn't have a meeting early in the month, so we're doing this now. Mr. Jantz, I'll meet you at the podium. Or one of your designated representatives. Anybody. Thank you. Let me just read this quickly and present this to you. Thank you. All right. All right. This is entitled Proclamation, City of St. Helena Designation of July as Park and Recreation Month. Whereas Parks and Recreation is an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the City of St. Helena. Parks and Recreation promotes health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people who utilize parks and participate in community recreational activities. Parks and Recreation provides public spaces for leisure, enrichment, and gathering opportunities designed to encourage active lifestyles for people of all ages. Whereas parks, recreation programming, and education activities such as out-of-school enrichment, sports, arts and culture, and environmental education are critical to childhood development. Whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. Parks and Recreation is fundamental for the environmental well-being of our community. Whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas the City of St. Helena recognizes and celebrates the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Paul Jamison Doring, Mayor of the City of St. Helena, along with my council colleagues, do hereby proclaim that July is recognized as Parks and Recreation Month in the City of St. Helena. And I would just add my own special thoughts to this. In my view, Parks and Recreation is the great equalizer. Folks don't have to have money to enjoy all the things that we provide in this community, and we have, pound for pound, one of the best parks and recreations organizations in the state. It is absolutely fantastic, all the work that's being done. And the other thing is, I know, having raised children and having seen families thrive here, that it's critical for our mental health. Not only for our children, but those older and anyone in between. They're critically important, especially at this time. So, Ms. Jantz, congratulations to your staff and all the work you do. I'll hand that over to you and invite a few comments. You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We appreciate the council's support and recognition. I get the opportunity to stand up here and accept this proclamation, but really the gratitude, as you mentioned, should be extended to the entire Parks and Recreation team, as well as other partners. I have Ashley Sylvester and Victoria Ramirez here from our team, but this goes beyond the team that's just in the office as well. This is our frontline staff who deliver summer camp programs, who prepare for summer concerts, for special events, who spend endless hours preparing the bocce courts. This also goes beyond our Parks and Rec team into the Parks Maintenance team of Public Works, who do lots of unsung hours of getting the parks prepared so that users can come and use them. And this also extends to not just our department. There's many other community partners in our community who help deliver recreation services. So it truly is a whole village and a team effort to deliver Parks and Recreation. We are grateful to be part of that. We are honored to work as this community's Parks and Recreation department. We do look forward to seeing everybody in a park or program soon. I would also be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to plug that we are doing a Parks and Recreation master plan. And so we are seeking feedback from all community members to help shape the present, but most importantly, the future of our Parks and Recreation program. So we do have a survey that's live, but we'll also have an opportunity coming up for people to participate in that program fully. So again, we're honored and grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. All right. So I don't think we have any further, thank you, Andrew. I don't think we have any further staff briefing tonight on 9, so we're going to move on to item 10. Mr. Camello noted that we have a couple of items that we're going to pull, and so I'll pull them first before we approve. Well, it's a little confusing. Maybe we should pull them first. We'll work through them, and then we'll go from there. Ms. Camello, you indicated that the staff, maybe the council, I don't know, but the staff wanted to pull item 10.2 and 10.3, so we'll start with 10.2.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. And also, I'd like to provide an update on the numbers associated with 10.6 later on.
Thank you.
So on 10.2, this has to do with the class and comp program that the city, a study I should say, that the city is wanting to conduct. The amount of $44,800, just so you know, includes both the classification and compensation studies part of it. We probably will not have a very extensive classification component, but it allows for a comparison with the private sector, so we want to keep that in. And if the efficiency study ended up identifying particular classification or the creation of new classification, we want to have capacity, the financial capacity to create those positions. As far as the 10.3 is concerned, I wanted to ask Vice Mayor Deasy if she had any comments. I know that both Vice Mayor Deasy and Councilmember Barrick assisted staff in helping select the firms that were associated or being presented here.
Vice Mayor Deasy, do you have any comments? 3.
Oh, we've moved it out from 10.2 to 10.3.
Yeah, I'm just
Okay.
comparing both.
Both.
Those were my only comments. That's fine.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. Did we pull them for a vote, or we?
I apologize. I
I thought
apologize.
there were maybe
Let's-
additional comments by anybody on the council, and do you have any additional comments? If not, we can move along.
Yeah, I do. I would love to have a discussion around the, in particular, around the second one, 10.3.
That's fine.
You want me to say it now? I'm sorry, I'm confused.
Now's the
Okay,
time.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm going to open it for public comment, but I want you
Okay.
to introduce any issues of concern or anything you want to talk about, then I'll open it for public
Okay,
comment.
thank you.
We'll bring it back for a vote.
Okay, so it's the efficiency study we're talking about. And I wanted to thank you for that. I did sit in on the final interviews for the efficiency study consultant. I think Aaron or Mr. Barrick was there also. So I did want to say that I was impressed by the candidate that was ultimately selected, particularly their focus on the Lean Six Sigma methodology, which is about streamlining processes and reducing waste. I was also really impressed that they had a focus on robotic process automation, or RPAs, which sort of lets computers take care of repetitive tasks. So I think there's an opportunity to save time and money. I think those are the kinds of tools that could deliver some value for our community. But it's a lot of money, and it is only as effective as its implementation. which is a little bit concerning. So I think we just need to, I think a discussion around it would be valuable before we approve it, since it's
That's
a
fine.
large sum.
Fair enough. Thank you for bringing those items to the floor. Anyone in the public wishing to comment on either item 10.2 or 10.3 at this point? Again, these are, one is, 10.2 is a full classification of compensation study. 10.3 is a professional services agreement with Blackbird Group LLC for an efficiency and business transformation study. And so I don't see anybody approaching the podium to comment on these two items. I will bring it back. Mr. Camello, on either one of these, what are the issues that you think are important for us to know? And obviously, the staff is recommending both of these items, but and we can flesh that out in terms of, I mean, I'm supportive of both, and particularly because you have just shown your support in areas that I had not really thought about in depth. So I'll invite others to comment on it. Mr. Camello, anything else that we should know about these items? I know it's hard to talk about both at the same time. I think we're focused more on item 10.3 at this point.
That's correct. I think I think I couldn't said it better. I think, as Vice Mayor Deasy said, we have an opportunity, and in fact, given our financial constraints, it's important that we look at our processes with the ultimate goal of really delivering better services to the community and deciding, well, how best we can reconfigure our operations to reduce costs and deliver better results.
All right.
And having an outside entity looking at that is used to doing this, I think is important.
Right. I didn't have the benefit of being on the interview panel. I trust that our council got the detail that council members who were on that got the detail that they needed. One of the areas I would be looking for maybe some specific examples, if you can think of any, where the items you're talking about, we do these studies, but you never hear about. And as a result of that study, we made some major changes in some other city. Were there any anecdotes or things that we could look forward to achieving with the study? I mean, do you foresee like areas where, wow, that's going to be real? I think in technology, I can see that repetitive tasks that you mentioned are interesting, but anything come to mind in terms of, oh yeah, this is going to be very essential if we look at these particular issues for our city because that happened in other cities?
I'll let Mr. Barrick speak a little bit more to it. I think it's his area of expertise. And I'll admit, I did want to say, I am still a little bit skeptical and worried. And so I feel like we need to all say, yes, we are going to take these recommendations and work to move them. But when you talk about the repetitive automation or robotic automation processes, it strikes me that we spend a lot of time doing very repetitive staff reports and other paperwork. And when I look at the reports and I see that they're done by hand, I can only imagine how much staff time it's taken up. So I would be looking for opportunities, which, every 6 months or every year, the world of technology is further along in that. And I think that if we're missing out, if we're not paying attention.
All right. Mr. Barrick, other thoughts, comments?
I think the business transformation, Mr. Mayor, is an opportunity to look at all areas of operations, right, and kind of peg the city on core principles and organize. In a way, you have to fire yourself mentally, like every employee, every manager, to look at, hey, if we were starting a city today and the goal was to make it easier for residents to do business with us.
We wouldn't start it first of all,
Right?
but go ahead.
Yes, that's true, we'd be counting. Right, ultimately, the government is supposed to serve the residents. My guess is not everybody feels that way on everything. And cities particularly grow organically over time. It's not a master plan per se. We can rebench this and I think get some real value. This is going to be hard for employees and hard for us because there's going to be change, right? And we're going to need to work through change management with the executive staff, and it's going to need to be more than just a book on who moved your cheese, because the operations, just from an outsider looking at it, other cities have done things differently. There's roadmaps for this. The hardest thing to do is manage the people and expectations. So we'll see where this goes. I think we have to be prepared, though, to pull the plug early, not just keep going and keep spending if things look, to Mayor Deasy's point, that, hey, we're just not, whatever elements here, it doesn't look like we're going to achieve anything. So I think we should go forward, but keep our eye on it.
All right, good comments. I think that's prudent in how we do all of our business. The word business, by the way, I don't know, it's meant, is business transformation, operational transformation? I don't like, government is not business. I know folks take that approach. I don't. But it's more
It's
operational,
more
or
like
is that an intended word to use here?
It's just a common word
Okay.
for the type of work.
Okay.
This is really around being best-run government.
Okay. All right. Other comments from my colleagues? Ms. Patarotto.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess my only concern, and I think it's kind of been answered, is I just want to make sure we're getting a good ROI on this. I want to make sure that if we are going to spend this money to do this, that at the end of the day, we're going to make that back plus, based on, what we get back from that. Are we going to be able to say it was worth it? Because we're going to have this much savings. We're going to save, if it's going to cost $100,000, how much are we going to get back at the end of the day?
I would temper expectations on saving money and becoming more efficient and providing better service. For example, we don't have a project management office here, but we use project managers, as we've noticed, in every project. They're expensive when you pay a consultant for it. A recommendation might be that, I know this is kind of counterintuitive, but you add project managers so we don't have to pay contractors, for instance, right, and get a professional staff that is used to working with the city over and over again. I've seen that happen. Done it myself. It works pretty well. And there's an ROI on something like that. It could be something like moving public engineering from one department to another to streamline operations for people doing remodels, right? It could be a number of things, and those are just examples. But a process with something where it's really hard for the city manager to do because he's in it, he's not a neutral party. And these neutral parties can facilitate the finance committee and others, council, staff, to try to achieve those outcomes. It's not easy, though.
Thank you for the comments. Ms. Deasy.
Thank you. I may have a slightly different perspective. I don't want to do it if there's not a return on investment. And there were, we did sit in with a few firms, and there were some where I thought, we're not going to get anything out of this. So I am hopeful, and the idea is that if we can automate some things, we may not need to hire more people. That's my perspective. Can I guarantee it? No.
Or a combination of both of those, right? So we may selectively, surgically hire somebody, but then maybe somewhere else figure out, oh, well, we may not need that. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Okay, so you wanted, just want to make sure I have that right items pulled. I'm going to look for a motion to approve the consent calendar, but you wanted to pull, like remove, not pull, postpone, I think is a better word, right? Item 10.8 and 10.12, is that correct, Mr.? So those are not on the agenda tonight. They won't be voted on until some other time.
That's correct.
Okay.
And I want to give you an update on 10.6, if that's okay, before you.
We can do 10.6 too.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so I'll just read it with the new numbers. So authorize the city manager to execute payment of the outstanding invoices for generator rental services and approve additional funding for continued emergency generator rental services at the wastewater treatment plant for an additional amount, and this is, I'll read it out, the new amount is $47,904.78, increasing the not to exceed total to, and here's a new number, $286,425.
Okay. That's not good
That's it.
news, but, All right. I understand that there's some corrections made there. Does anyone, could you explain why there was just a calculation error or something very simple?
No, so when the report was written, few weeks ago, we were assuming that we'll be done with this rental by June
Okay.
30th.
Right.
And then we found out that we needed to extend it because the new generator would not be operational until this month, so.
All right.
1 extra month's service.
Thank you. So I'm going to look for a motion to approve, or a motion on the consent calendar, with the exceptions of item 10.8 and 10.12, which will be heard at a later time.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent minus 10.8 and 10.12.
All right? The motion is our second.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar with the adjustments that we just talked about. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Barrick,
Yes.
Spataroto,
Yes.
Summers,
No.
Vice Mayor Deasy,
Yes.
and Mayor Doring.
Yes. All right, that motion passes. We're on to item 11, public hearings, introduction and waiver of first reading of ordinance re-implementing penalties for delinquent water and sewer bills. Mr. Kamel, you can introduce the staff member and the item, please.
Certainly. So when I brought this item last time, a few weeks ago, the council directed us to make some changes, and with that, I'll introduce Finance Manager Martin Beltran.
Mr. Beltran, welcome again.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. As City Manager Camelo mentioned, we are back with the first reading of a public hearing to reintroduce delinquency penalties for water and wastewater services. The main change that's happened since the last time we were in front of City Council is the previous draft ordinance highlighted a 60-day time frame or timeline as to when the penalties could be assessed. The revised draft ordinance in front of you tonight is for a 45-day time frame. In addition, there is discussion from the previous item as to what our neighboring agencies do as far as what percentage do they charge their customers, and of the neighboring agencies, Calistoga is the only agency that assesses a 5% late fee, whereas American Canyon, Yountville, and City of Napa, they assess a 10% penalty. So with that, those are the two main updates: is the revision to when we can assess the penalty, and then also just the comparing the agencies and where we stand as far as the penalties. So with that, I'm available for any questions.
So as I typically do, I'll ask my colleagues whether you have any basic, simple, clarifying questions of the staff member. None. I'm going to take the time to open open it for public comment. Is there anybody wishing to opine on penalties, water and sewer penalties? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment and bring it back to the council. All right. Anything that I need to know about? Okay, all right, thank you. Back to, we've seen this item before. We gave direction to the staff to re-implement penalties, so they were always there. We had a little bit of as we were doing some other work, we noted that our policy would be to encourage folks to try to pay on time, although we did extend it out to 45 days. The prior timeline was 30 days, Mr. Camelo. So the bill is due 21 days after, but then delinquent after 45 days. Is that how I understand it?
That is correct.
All right. Any comments or concerns by any of my colleagues? All right. To adopt the staff's recommendation.
I'll make a motion to adopt the staff's recommendation.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk, there's a motion and a second. I think you gathered both of those. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Barrick,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Deasy,
Yes.
Councilmember Summers,
Yes.
Spataroto,
Yes.
and Mayor Doring.
Yes, all right, thank you for that work. On to item 12.2, under old business, discussion and direction from City Council regarding treatment of covered balconies, porches, decks, and other structures for purposes of calculating gross floor area under the city's zoning ordinance. I think, Mr. Walsh, you're going to introduce the item and provide the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. I think
I miss one?
12.1 is actually the Porch Fest item.
I'm sorry. You're correct. I lost my place. Porches. Okay, I was probably a Freudian, want to bypass some of these things, but no. No, 12.1, I apologize. Mr. Jans. I had a feeling as I was going on that something was just too quick.
I know.
Slow down, Mayor. Okay, Mr. Jans.
Good evening, Mayor,
Thank you.
council members. It is indeed the theme of the evening is
Yes.
porches. So we are returning as staff, and the event organizers are here as well. This is a follow-up from the council discussion on June 24th. So after feedback given, the organizers have made some modifications to their proposal, and we're here this evening. You all have a resolution in front of you to consider proposed street closures and mobile food vendors within the event footprint. So we'll be giving a high-level overview. Some of it will be a little bit repeat information, but we'll move that quickly just to provide context and most importantly focus on discussion items that have changed since June 24th. So next slide, please. So as you well know, Porch Fest is a proposed free community event with a focus on live music in residential neighborhoods. This item is being organized by Napa Valley Music Alliance. This item came before the Parks and Recreation Commission on May 5th and again on June 16th for their discussion and feedback, and came before you all on June 24th. The organizers have submitted requests and applications for encroachment, amplified sound, and road closure permits. Those would be pending upon council direction this evening. So again, final review and the authority to actually implement the road closures lies with you as the city council members. Next slide, please. So as a quick overview, the proposed date is Sunday, September 28th, taking place in the residential neighborhoods of Adams, Kearney, Stockton, and Tainer. Proposed event time, 12:30 to 5. The road closures to provide a safe environment for attendees would be from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Various styles of music, staggered start times, not all porches playing simultaneously. No alcohol will be sold at the event. Next slide. To dial in a bit more on the road closure item, there will be a map that will be put in front of you here in a bit, but here is the road closures. These remain close to what you saw on June 24th, with the exception being the second bullet point on Kearney Street. The organizers have narrowed that closure or lessened that closure to bring it down to just one house within Kearney Street. There's one house participating, and that would lessen the impact on the neighborhood there by being just the one southernmost house on the Kearney Avenue. The other proposed closures remain the same as what you saw on June 24th. And a reminder, the closures are what you see in the image. Those, when we refer to hard closures, those are water-filled K-rails. Next slide. The item did go before the Parks and Recreation Commission, and the commission recommended approval of the event with condition placed on the organizers, some of them in alignment with what you all shared at your meeting as well. But their recommendation was to not waive the permit fees as being requested until the nonprofit status was finalized and confirmed. Confirm insurance levels are in place in accordance with both our insurance provider and the attorney's office, which will have additional information on the insurance piece. Exploring how to address parking within the area, and confirming that our public safety departments are comfortable with an event of this nature taking place. Next slide, please. So this is the slide I'd like to focus on for the time being. These are the areas that, based on staff's recollection, that council deliberated on, and the event organizers have either provided additional information or made modifications. First and foremost was the nonprofit status. Not a whole lot of change there. You may recall the event organizers, and they'll share a bit more. They have submitted, and their application has been received by the state. They're still waiting on 501c3 tax exempt status from the IRS, and that step is needed in order to finalize their paperwork with the state. They're expecting and hopeful that they will get approval of that within a few weeks. On the financial side, again, I'll let the organizers share more here shortly, but they've provided an overall budget of $27,500 to implement the event and have raised in pledges so far $14,500 of that event, of that target goal. Insurance requirements, both the city's insurance provider and the city attorney's office have reviewed the insurance requirements. The standard requirement for an encroachment permit, which is the permit that we would be issuing, is typically $1 million of general liability based on the anticipated attendance and nature of this event. That increased to $2 million, as well as some additional language, which was included as part of the staff report if you'd like the detailed language of the insurance requirements being placed by the city. On the street closures, as I mentioned earlier, a reduction in the closure on Kearney. And as far as the cleanup, there was some discussion about how do we ensure that the neighborhoods are returned to their current state. And so, if approved, the organizers would be contracting with a traffic control company who would be responsible for moving the traffic control measures, Upper Valley Waste Management, who would be providing trash receptacles and picking those up. They're also working with a company called Green Mary, which helps with trash reduction, but also focus on making the event a green event, and also a portable toilet company who would be delivering those. They would also be meeting the requirements that are put in place by our environmental services technician, and that's typically when anytime there's trash or portable toilets placed in a public space, there's certain requirements that have to be met. Many of these companies are familiar with it, but they would make sure that those are followed. And one element that's not listed up there as terms of the encroachment permit is following the event, the city would be providing street sweeping services, which would be reimbursed by the event organizers. As far as parking goes, the event organizers looked at several options, have put forward the options similar to what we follow for other large community events, where they will not be having a designated parking area for people to go, but intend to have people use the surrounding neighborhoods and also have volunteers on hand to direct people to potential parking locations. But this falls in line with how we would handle parking for events that happen in residential areas such as Harvest Festival and 4th of July. Next slide, please. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the organizers, who are going to briefly go through a little bit more
I think
details.
I want to stop
Please.
here and maybe see if there are any clarifying questions of you before we turn it over to the presenters. Anything anybody has on your mind based on what Mr. Jantis said? Ms. Barrett? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Director Johns, how are you?
Doing well, thank you.
I noticed in the staff room report you referred to some, call it a phase gate almost with the Porch Fest organizers, where there's a point where there's a check-in to make sure that they have waste management, the stuff the city would be responsible for cleaning up the neighborhoods, that those are in a binding contract or something along those lines. At least I was inferring that with what I was reading. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So as far as, let's say, the insurance certificates, as well as the mentions of the waste management company, those contracts and copies of those contracts would need to be issued to the city before we would issue encroachment permits. So what we're looking for tonight is authorization to move forward with the process to close the roads, but then there would need to be submissions to us before we'd move forward with encroachment permits. So those would need to be in hand before we would issue those permits.
Thank you.
All right, good question. I had a similar question. On the, and I'll turn it over to you if you have any questions. Remind me to look your way because I tend not to sometimes. On the nonprofit status, is it the city's requirement that that in order to waive a permit fee that they have to have federal nonprofit status, or is it just the filing of a nonprofit corporation, which is a much simpler process, as you know?
It's a great question, Mr. Mayor, and right now within the city's protocols, there's not a requirement that events have to be put on by nonprofits. That's the practice that we're following, and I know this group is working towards that, but there is no set in stone. It needs to be one or the other before we consider waiving those fees. That's at the discretion of the council and the city manager, so it doesn't have to be specifically be a nonprofit group, but I know that was some direction given by the Parks and Rec Commission, and my understanding of their direction was that it was when tax exempt process, mainly so that when folks gave donations, they knew that it was going to a 501c3.
All right. Well, we'll have to live with the rules that we have in place right now. There's no doubt about that, but I think we'll probably have to look at that in the future to kind of tighten that up a little bit. Along the lines of what Mr. Barrick was asking in terms of the, the check the box, if you got it, you're not going to get an encroachment permit until you have these things met and you show proof to the city that you have it, insurance, the contracts in place. How about the sort of the funding? I know I asked about this last time, and I know that the city doesn't, ask for sort of private information about, your bank accounts, but how do we ensure ourselves that the funding is in place in some reasonable form or fashion?
Yeah, it's a good question, as you mentioned. Not the typical path that we follow, but we understand this is a unique event, and so we've talked to the organizers and requested they provide us regular status updates. And as we get closer, within a month of the have to be met if they don't meet their fundraising goal, one of which would be to scale back, one of which would be to not move forward with the event or find another way to pay for it. So we would leave that at the discretion of the event organizers, but I think in fairness to the community, we'd want to make sure that there's proper
Janice, before I open it, Ms. Spatarota, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess one of my questions, and I read through the report, and I just wanted to get clarification or reaffirmation regarding insurance when it comes to liability for the property owners themselves. So if, God forbid, something were to happen on somebody's property, are those individuals that own that property, are they liable?
And I believe I know the answers, but I'm going to defer to Mr. Walsh to make sure that we get this absolutely correct.
Mr. Walsh.
So if someone gets injured on an individual's property, but it has nothing to do with that individual, then they wouldn't be liable for that injury. Now I should be clear, there's always the possibility that someone could bring a lawsuit against them, and then they would have to look to the operator, assuming the operator had some responsibility for whatever happened, to take some responsibility for that. So, there's always a risk that someone will sue you, but if just by someone being on your property doesn't mean that you're liable for an injury.
All right. Other questions at this point? Seeing none, I'm going to open it for public comment. Ms. Jans, you can introduce, as you were going to, the presenters. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I believe Mr. Weeks is going to present some more details, especially on the
Thank you.
financial
Welcome
side.
again.
Thank you. It's great to be back here again. As I said last month, or when I came in, my name's Alex Weeks. I represent Napa Valley Music Alliance. And let's just jump right into it. Next slide, please. Quick overview. As Mr. Jans said, there's going to be a lot of repeat information here. Most of it is for context. We are Napa Valley Music Alliance. We are registered as a nonprofit corporation in the state of California. Our 501c3 tax exempt status is still pending. The IRS website has said that they are working on applications as of May 8th for the last 2 weeks now. Our submission was on May 14th, so any day now. We also do have a City of St. Helena business license. That is something relatively new. We wanted to make sure we complied with any regulations that the city had. Next step. Yep, quick about Porch Fest. Napa Porch Fest started in 2011. It was the first Porch Fest west of the Mississippi. Last one was held in 2013. There is a potential start date for this year, although it doesn't necessarily look good. There are some organizers who are trying to put it together. 12 years without legal incident. The event went off, well. And they were partnered with Napa County Landmarks. Napa County Landmarks decided to back out with a change in leadership and a direction to stay more focused on Napa County landmarks and history. Next slide, please. So what we're proposing for St. Helena is 15 porches, 22 bands at a maximum. This isn't going to be a big rock concert, as I like to joke. If you're Green Day, I'm sorry. I tried to contact them at Bottle Rock. They weren't interested in coming. Sorry. But there's going to be a combination of jazz bands, string quartet bands. There'll be rock, there'll be funk, Mexicana, etc. Staggered start times. All bands will have an hour-and-a-half set. This is going to allow for people to keep moving around, looking for the next, great band that they want to check out, and also minimize sound bleed between porches. As a musician who's played Porch Fest before, there's nothing worse than trying to play an event and having some rock band right across the street from you all. So I want to make this as enjoyable for the people who come to attend this and for the musicians. Local food trucks will be there to provide people food. The proposal you're going to see in the maps, it has been done in conjunction with Parks and Rec, Fire Department, Police Department, as well as taking local community feedback to try and make this as pleasant an event as possible. And it is locally organized by St. Helena and Napa County residents. Next
I
slide.
would just encourage you to try to focus on the newer information. I know.
Absolutely.
I mean, we heard a lot of this. I don't want to, preclude you from giving your spiel,
Yep.
but you can focus on some of the new things that have happened since the last time we met.
Absolutely. So we can move on to the next
Yep,
slide
thanks.
then. There is something new here, as was mentioned by Director Jans. There is a closure on Kearney Street that was moved closer towards Adams, and that was because we have one house there and we had some concerns from locals around there. But otherwise, the map has stayed the same. Next slide. Same slide here. For proposed food truck pop-up location. Again, same slide for waste management. Next slide. Same thing for restrooms. Next slide. And then porches. There's a couple of minor adjustments here as we continue to work on bringing in more porches. We have 12 of the 15 that we're targeting right now. We've been kind of focused on this meeting, so we'll work on getting those. When everybody's ready, I'll move forward. I know that you want to look at the map real quick. All right, next slide,
Yeah,
please.
It's just closer to my eyes.
Yep. No, understood. Last time you had questions about how we were going to pay for all of this, and we had mentioned the $27,000 being the estimated budget for the whole event. We're going after raising funds in 3 different batches here. First is through sponsorship. We're targeting around $21,000 in sponsorship there. We already have $15,000 of that raised. One of the big roadblocks to getting more is actually getting a permit or city council approval. There are a lot of potential sponsors who want to sponsor but are just kind of waiting for the final to happen. Next is around $8,000 in merchandise. We plan to sell T-shirts and hats and such like as that. Again, we haven't started that aspect of the fundraising because we don't have city council approval, but we have a design ready to go. Everything's ready to get up on the website and start selling that quickly. And then food trucks, we're charging the food trucks or the food vendors to come in. And again, we haven't started signing contracts with them because we don't have a city council approval. So there's another $10,000 right there ready for us to get once we have the okay. Were there any questions about this slide while we're here?
I guess just in terms of the income based on the food trucks.
Yep.
It just seems like that would be the city's income, right? How does that typically work, Mr. Jans, when we have food vendors on public property? Do they have to get their own permits, and do we get sales tax? How does that work?
So part of, typically from the Parks and Rec standpoint, we don't necessarily charge food vendors to come in, but that can be up to it. But as far as we're looking for, a permit would be issued by the Public Works Department in alignment with the encroachment permit. What that exact fee is, I don't know off the top of my head, but there's a fee that comes with that permit to have.
Right, fair enough. I mean, the question was not accusatorial. It's just it's enlightening me because I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know. Now
I'm not privy to the fees that the city would charge, but we are charging for them to get in.
All right, thank you. Continue.
Oh, any other questions?
Questions at this point? Ms. Deasy.
Thank you. Yeah, when you say 14, thank you for everything, actually.
Yes.
It sounds really exciting.
Yeah.
The 14,450, are those pledges or money in the bank? They're waiting? I was just confused who's waiting for the approvals? Is that the 14,000 or the 21?
The people waiting are not reflected on there. So that the $15,000 is a combination of both received and pledged. We're waiting for some checks to come in, things like that. We have a grant that we're in the final stages of that's part of that. So it's a combination of things.
All right.
All right, next slide.
Thank you.
Then the question comes up around liability and insurance. We have had and submitted insurance statements, certificates of insurance to the city that were in line with the city's previous requirements. We recently got the request to go up to $2 million general and $4 million aggregate. We do have a question as to why $1 million in general liability. We can provide that, but that over doubles our insurance costs, and it falls more in line with the insurance requirements of something like a Bottle Rock, as opposed to a Porch Fest. Now, we're more than happy to up the aggregate. We can make that 4 or 5, but the jump to 2 million general liability is a question mark for us.
We'll take that up. Continue on.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And as I said, if that is deemed that is absolutely what we have to do, we will comply with that. But we do have questions.
I'm sure we'll have further discussion. I think there was talked about, Mr. Walsh, you can shed some light on that, but you can continue on with your presentation.
All right. Next slide then. Again, same thing you saw last time, our sponsorship levels that we're advertising out. Next slide. And that's what we got for you.
All right. Thank you for that.
Happy to answer any other questions that you guys might have.
Any questions? I mean,
silence is golden.
Well, silence is golden. Anything else to add to that, Mr. Walsh or Mr. Jans, in terms of the question that was raised about the 2 million in coverage as opposed to the 1 million, based on the number and based on our risk managers probably, but.
Sure. So I can say our standard for pretty much anyone who comes in that does business with the city, say our consulting contracts or anyone who we have a contract with, 1 million general liability, 2 million aggregate is what we require. It's just kind of our baseline. For something that creates higher risk, we usually look for something higher. And in general, because our risk pool is the one who insures us, we look to them to say what would be appropriate in this instance. That's what Mr. Jans did in this case, and that's the recommendation they came back with.
All right. Fair enough.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weeks. Others in the public wishing to comment on this item? Okay, I'll close the public comment, bring it back to my colleagues for discussion. Anybody want to start off? Ms. Summers, I assume you're still supportive of the item. You were enthusiastic last time. I assume you are. Any reservations or changes?
Yeah, I got nothing against music and dancing, enjoying ourselves and creating more revenue for our city, especially in our dire time of need. I think it's important to bring events like this, more awareness to the city and more connectivity beyond our city. And that just brings in more revenue for our businesses and hotels and all the people I care about. So, yeah, I am in favor. Thank you for asking.
How about you, Mr. Barrick? I'm just going to turn my head back and
I
forth until
enjoy
everybody
what,
gets their comments on the table. If
What
you don't
Mr.
have any, that's
Summers
fine.
is saying. I get the vibe. I like it. I think it's a great concept, great event. Some areas, of course, I'm concerned with. It's a new entity. We don't necessarily know much about it. We're getting up to speed. I think some of us feel that way. Also, the piece that is grabbing me is that this isn't a residential area, and as we've seen with the comments and emails, not everybody's down with it and looks at it the same way, and I want to be respectful of those views as well. And I can understand it. It's different from Main Street or a business district like Oakland. We have Harvest. This is actually in a residential street, and we know there's some folks that are concerned. But
Indeed. I mean, it's a lot of life is trade-offs and balancing different values and different concerns that folks have. You don't know until you try, so you can have a lot of concerns about it, and maybe they will show themselves. Or it could to be a complete success. It's really hard to judge. I'm concerned about that. One of the concerns I have, and maybe it's not something that the city can do much about, but maybe the sponsors can. I want to be able to give as much confidence to residents affected by the closures that they have alternatives. I know it's hard for you to do, knocking door to door and say, hey, this street's closed, but the next street over, we talked to those neighbors and said, you could all park there. I've got actually about 11 cars parked in front of my house right now because there's a lot of utilities work. And I'm like, okay, I know it's going to end in a couple weeks. I can live with it. Here it's one day. But have you made outreach to let folks know, especially seniors, who would have to walk a little ways or may not be able to get into their driveways at that particular time? I know some of them are soft closures, I know some of them are hard closures. I'm really concerned about the hard closures that could prevent some folks from either getting out of their property or getting back to their property. That's a big concern for some
We are
folks.
starting to have some of those conversations, and we're going to encourage those people to park in the soft closure areas. That's part of what those soft closure areas are for. Number one, to keep outside people from coming in from out of town from parking in those neighborhoods, but also give local residents a chance to park someplace where they have the ability to get in and out of.
All right. I would encourage you to continue to have those conversations. So.
And I just want to comment, Rachel, hi. And I just want to comment that we have canvassed the neighborhood, has it been 8 times? I think it's 8 times 240 residents. So we've really worked hard at notifying the residents, having the conversations, and also talking with them and then physically showing them other areas that they can park. And so during the event.
All right. Thank you for that. Okay. All right. I'll bring it back to the council. Ms. Deasy, it sounds like you're supportive of it based on the vibe I'm getting and some of your early comments. Any other comments? I'll be looking for a motion from somebody.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes?
I know we took feedback from the applicant, but I'm not sure if you opened it for the rest of the public.
I mean, I opened it for public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Are there others wishing to comment that didn't catch that? Please, I'm sorry. Yeah, I did open it, but I'm happy to keep it open for a while. Ms. Finney, nice to see you again. How are you?
Hi, my name is Kim Finney. I want to go on record as the 4th time public comment for all 4 meetings. I'm opposed to this group hosting Porch Fest in our neighborhoods. I'm on a soft closure street. We were never notified that parking in our neighborhood. St. Helena is a special place. Everyone in the county will tell you that because we care so much. You brought up in our residential neighborhoods, it's not fair when you have on record an equal, if not more, number of people opposed than you do that want to host it. There's a whole group here that doesn't want it in our neighborhood. It's Park and Rec month. We have beautiful parks. You yourself said they're amazing. Try it there first. Test it out. Test the parking. Test the 1,000, maybe 5,000 people. Then bring it to the neighborhoods with better, more communication. Also, as of today, they are not registered as a nonprofit. And I sent that to you guys earlier today. That's just not the truth. They're not registered as a nonprofit as of today with the Department of Justice. There's a lot of misconceptions. There's a lot of mistruth that is going to affect us. We don't want it. Those that are speaking up are emotional about it because it's our home, it's our privacy, and we don't. You have a vote to make tonight. It's a moral decision. None of you are in the neighborhoods having it. Do it in the parks. They're enthusiastic. They have money. Do it that way, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Finney. All right. Back to the council. So we have, a difference of opinion by a variety of folks, and it's heartfelt, obviously, by some who feel I don't know what the word is. Public comment's open. What you do is you walk over to the podium and you talk. I would not know unless you make your way. Ma'am, go ahead. You have the forum. You have it.
I live on Tainer Street, and I am also very against Porch Fest. I find it super unresponsible.
What is your name, for the record?
Marissa Noakes.
Yep, thank you.
And it's Nokes.
Mm-hmm.
I find it extraordinarily irresponsible to expect people when it's extremely hot. Fire season, I would like to have 2 ways out. I live on a very narrow street. There's maybe 50 houses from the soft closure on Tainer from Allen to, there's only one way for me to get in with Adams closed. So I have to go through the soft closure, get in, and then right now there's barely any parking because most of the houses have 1-car driveway when most of the homes have 2 to 3 cars. So it's a very narrow street. And I find it absolutely unresponsible to think I'm supposed to park on Spring Street when you have Allen, Adams a hard closure, Kearney a hard closure, and people coming in trying to park and see this festival. And also I'm very concerned about alcohol, drugs, and well, also, I've mentioned it before in the first meeting, our house insurance. I mean, many of my neighbors have lost their house insurance. We've had house insurance for years and years, and you get that letter in the mail. And if this gets out that there's going to be people walking around, listening to music in our area, I mean, there's no thinking of the city. It's like, oh, this is fun. Yay, it's fun. But these are all people saying this who do not live on this street. It's not fun. It's not fun for us. I would like privacy. I don't want people like near my house. It's not safe. I don't feel even paying all this property tax, paying to live in St. Helena is even being acknowledged. This should be on a park or on an industrial street where, I mean, have it on Railroad Avenue and Oak, cut it off over there. Great, have the food trucks in a parking lot. I mean, and plus you're gonna have multiple food trucks. That's 2 to 3 parking spaces too. And is it gonna be that new law where you can't park close to the road, or where are we putting all these cars, all these people, and we don't know how many people are coming. I mean, you can stand here and say, oh, there's only gonna be this many, but there are gonna be a lot. And we have not been notified properly. Getting a piece of paper on your, just a paper, not getting things mailed. We got a paper that had the city emblem on it, but it wasn't from the city. That's suspicious, you know, these things. Then we get a real letter from the city, and I'm like, well, is this real or is this from Porch Fest? I can't tell the difference. And I find it extremely irresponsible to go forward with this, and I would be very happy if this wasn't happening anywhere near my house, because that's our house.
Thank you. Others? Others wishing to comment on the item? All right.
I'd like to comment. Is that okay?
Nope. You've already commented, so I don't typically allow people to comment after comment.
I was answering the question that you had about insurance.
I didn't have what question? Okay, go ahead.
I'm one of the presenters, so yeah.
About insurance. Limited to that. I don't know if I have another question, but go ahead and answer the question.
No,
I don't think I have.
It's not a question. It's my statement. It's my public comment. Is that okay?
Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
You've had a chance to speak, but I'll let you.
Well, you open public comment, so I'd like to just make a public comment if that's okay.
Public comment's open, ma'am. Go ahead.
All right. So this is what I'd like to read real quick. My name is Rachel Clark, and I'm one of the organizers of St. Helena's first annual Porch Fest, scheduled for Sunday, September 28th. I'm here to ask for your support for an event that is truly rooted in the values we hold dear as a community. Porch Fest is entirely free. No tickets and no barriers, just neighbors, music, and joy. It is an open invitation to everyone in our community to come as they are and enjoy an afternoon of local music, local food trucks, and shared connection on the beautiful historic porches of the west side of St. Helena. This isn't a commercial festival or an exclusive event. It is a gift to the community, a celebration of diversity, inclusion, and unity. A chance for families, seniors, artists, and friends of all ages and backgrounds to gather, sing, dance together, and simply enjoy each other's company. As we celebrate the 150th anniversary of the city of St. Helena, we believe there's no better time to create something new that honors our town's rich history and spirit. Our organizing team has spent over 7 months carefully planning with city staff, Public Works, the fire department, and the police department, and Parks and Rec to ensure all logistics from all safety and traffic to noise and waste are fully addressed. We've also connected with neighbors and made adjustments based on community input, because we want this event to reflect and respect everyone who calls St. Helena home. Porch Fest is about bringing people together freely, joyfully, and safely. I respectfully ask for your support in making this a memorial and meaningful inaugural event for our city. Thank you for your time and believing in community-driven events like this.
All right, thank you. Others wishing to comment who have not already spoken? Thank you. Okay, I'll bring it back to the council. I'm going to close public comment. You know, there's a lot of different perspectives here that I'm gathering. Tough call. Other comments or any need to sort of hash out some of the issues that have been raised? Vice Mayor Deasy, yes, of course.
Thank you. I guess I hear everyone, and it's a tough decision. I do think it sounds like an exciting event. I'm still concerned about just the nonprofit status, financials, and insurance certificates. So did we state what date that would all need to be in by? And what if there is a yes that to move forward? What is that date and what exactly needs to be in?
I don't think we have stated that, but I would be amenable to I'd like to hear from staff, but like September 1st, if it's on the 28th or earlier, what would be your?
At least a month.
Yeah. August 20, whatever it is, a month, 30 days before.
August 28th is a Thursday, so that seems like
August what?
August 28th is a Thursday.
All right. Yeah, that's an important point. We can't just have it sort of drag out and then put everybody under the gun at the last minute. Mr. Johns, what are you thinking about that? Ms. Summers, I'll recognize you as soon as I hear from Mr. Johns.
No, thank you. And again, there's no hard and fast date typically for our events, but I think the organizers as well as staff and most importantly community members are going to want to know whether this is moving forward. So I think your notion of a month's notice is well taken.
Most of if we go forward to approve something like this, it's conditioned upon a number of things happening after, where it's obviously there's no, as you explained, there would be no encroachment permit issued if certain things were not lined up. Correct, Mr. Johns?
That's correct. So in you providing or not providing authorization of the road closures, that's what allows us to move forward with the nature of this encroachment permit. So we would then require those contracts that we stated earlier, the insurance pieces in place before we could issue those, and therefore the event
Mr. Summers.
I had a question for Ethan. Ethan, in regards to all these things we're looking for prior to giving the permit to this entity, precedent-wise, how have we handled other entities in, say, the last 10 years in regards to this? Are we giving them special or unnecessary treatment? I just want to know.
I don't think we're really giving them special treatment. The only thing that I would say is exceptional with this is the insurance requirements are higher than we would for a standard encroachment permit, but this is a little bit different than our standard encroachment permit where someone is just in the street in front of their house. Say.
Like for the Harvest Festival, for instance.
Well, the Harvest Festival is a city event, so we're insured by our own insurance in that case, so we wouldn't require ourselves to.
Okay, what about like when they did the car event over there on Adams Street, the Rionda House?
So I'm not usually involved in that part of it, so I can't say for sure.
It is.
What our insurance requirements were for the.
Yeah, I just want to make sure if we're altering course on the way that we treat individuals that try to get permits, I want to know what we've done for a decade, and then I want to know when we change it, why we change it, how we change it, and if we're changing it for a person differently than anyone else.
Right. So it is very standard in all instances for us to make sure that they have all these things in place before we issue the permits. Mm-hmm. That's very common. The insurance requirements that we impose on a case-by-case basis depending on the level of risk, and we consult with our risk manager. So while this may be a different requirement, it's also a different event.
And who is our risk manager?
So technically, I'm the risk manager. It's delegated to the admin services director, but our third-party administrator, as it relates to risk, and insurance purchases, is an organization called CIRA. I sit on the board of directors of that organization, and as the city attorney was talking about, those requirements are established for the city as for city events. And in this particular case, correct me if I'm wrong, Director Jens, I didn't communicate about this previously, but typically when an event like this is organized, we would call CIRA's staff and ask them what their assessment is and what requirements they want us to impose. In this case, my understanding is that the call was made to CIRA and the requirement was $2 million. Is that correct?
That's correct. So we provided them an overview of the event, and based on the location and the anticipated attendance over 1,000 people, they came back with the document that was within the packet and the various insurance stipulations.
I love that. And when we do our own events, do we inquire to up our insurance for that event, or?
Well,
As a
so
city?
we're part of a pool, so we have insurance that's, I would guess, well in excess of these requirements.
Okay,
because
so we don't really
we
take
have
a look
lot of
because
liability.
we're so
It's far
insured.
beyond, it's far beyond us, yeah.
Well, technically, we are self-insured in the sense that we are part of that pool and we contribute toward that, and we share the risk.
That's our, okay, right. Okay, we're in that pool. Okay, thank you.
All right, I'll look for a motion. We'll just test the waters. You got to have a motion to do that. And a second.
I'm going to try it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Can I make
Absolutely.
I'm going to make a motion to approve this event contingent upon nonprofit status, proof of funds to finance the event, and insurance certificates by August 28th. Does that sound right?
Anything else there, Mr. Walsh?
I guess I'd want to understand what you mean by nonprofit status.
501c IRS 501c3 status that is then recognized by the state of California.
Okay. Yeah, I
Those
understand
are two
that.
separate things, yeah.
Is that a normal requirement? Or is that just a requirement when we give them when we waive the fee?
So there's a motion, so maybe if there's a second on that, I can respond.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Further discussion on the item that on the issue that Mr. Summers is raising?
Yeah, I would say that's not a typical requirement for something like this.
To have federal nonprofit status recognized.
Or nonprofit status at all
Yeah.
recognized.
That's right. I mean, I think that was consistent with what Mr. Jans has said.
Right.
But it is relevant. I think is it relevant to the waiver of fees by past practice? I think that was maybe a more nuanced issue. Mr. Jans, when we waive fees, do we typically waive them for nonprofits, or am I mistaken there?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. I can't say with any certainty those typically don't pass through my office, but
Yeah.
that's my understanding. The bulk of fee waivers have been by way of either local partners or nonprofits, is my understanding. But again, I don't see all of those coming through, so I don't want to say with certainty yes or no.
All right, thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the item?
Yeah. I mean, just so I'm clear, the nonprofit status when buying a permit for an event like this is not a requirement whatsoever, but we're sort of turning it into one a little bit, maybe. And now, typically, but how many, I mean, over the last year, we've waived fees for profitable companies or partners, as we would say, in our valley, people we like and want to work with. And then nonprofits, we waive the fees. So if they just paid the fees, would this be a non-issue as far as, the motion and everything? Or I just want to understand, why is it so
Sure.
important if that's not normal? Because I want to treat everyone
Sure.
fairly based on how we've treated everyone else.
So my concern is just that we are confident that the event can be pulled off. And my understanding was that, and I probably made this assumption myself, that many of the donors would want that nonprofit status in order to donate. I'm not stuck on that, but I do want to make sure that the event can go off. And so seeing that the money is there, I suppose I may not have a problem with it if the money is in the bank and it's not a nonprofit entity. That wouldn't be a killer for me. It seemed to sort of make sense
that
It
was.
does make sense, but I just wonder, are we overstepping, you know what I mean, our procurement of this? That's kind of their situation, and it's not so much up to us in a way. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think we always have a responsibility. I'm just looking at, I think the event sounds great. I'm looking at it from a risk perspective and how, I run a nonprofit, so I'm a little bit familiar with how you have to dot your I's and cross your T's. I don't think it's necessary. It seemed part of a package, and I think it's important for us as we look at this, any vendor who's coming into our town, certainly into our neighborhoods, that we understand the organization, what they're doing, what their plans are, what's going to happen, how they conduct themselves, all those things. I'm not sure if the nonprofit status is a complete killer. It just seemed like the logical set of requirements to sort of say, okay, come into our neighborhoods.
Well, come into our neighborhoods, whether you're profitable or not. More, you're saying, are they an ethical entity? And do we want them in our neighborhood, is what I heard. Because as far as the nonprofit, whether they're making profit or nonprofit, they can come, I mean, I think is regarding the permit, right?
Yeah, I'm not that type. If we
could let that go, I could get behind it,
okay.
you know? Yeah. Anyways.
All right. Ms. Deasy, are you willing to amend your motion in any way? Are you sufficient
Sure.
with it?
I'm
not saying that I wouldn't necessarily prefer it, but in order to reach accord with the issue, you sound like you have some movement there. If you don't want to, that's fine. If you do want to, that's fine also. I get to the point, you're more talking about viability, not ethics. I don't think you use the word ethics, but viability of the entity.
I'm most concerned about viability. I don't think that being
Is there another way to satisfy you that the entity is viable?
Yeah, I'd like to see the money in the
statement?
bank. Yeah, that's what I'd like to see.
All right, maybe that's part of your motion.
Okay, let's try again.
All right.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this event conditional upon a bank statement that shows it can be financed and insurance certificates.
All right.
I'll second the motion.
All right, there's a motion and a second. I know it's a little challenging because, folks are waiting for this night so they can go out and go, yeah, we got approval from the city in order to seek funds. So there's a motion and a second. Do we have in mind, Mr. Walsh, what the motion is, and it's sufficient as far as you can tell?
I think so. Are you assuming you're granting staff discretion to decide whether the amount is sufficient?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yes, it's not my motion, but that's what I was assuming.
And that's what I was going to ask, Mr. Mayor. The presentation had a number of 31,000 something. So that's the goal that staff would need to take into consideration as meeting the criteria?
Well, the budgeted event to be able to pay the
31,000.
vendors and to pay for everything that needs to be paid for, that's what I'm more concerned about.
Okay.
Yeah, right. All right. I think there's a motion and a second. Does everybody have clarity on the motion? Madam Clerk, we'll have a roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Deasy?
Yes.
Councilmember Summers?
Yes.
Councilmember Spadafora?
No.
And Barrick?
No.
And Mayor Doring?
No. All right, that takes care of that, and we'll move on to the next item. That motion fails. All right. Okay, so now we are on to, I think we'll move on until maybe around, unless somebody needs a break at this point. Let's take a break. All right. We'll take until 7:30, please. All right.
Rachel, is this yours?
Truly, and again, truly sorry. Our town is humiliated. It's heartbreaking. And he's, no. When he gets democracy. Is it? All I know right now is thank you for what you did. Yes.
No, thank you guys.
Truly.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, are you kidding? It's gonna happen here one day.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
similar to where we're at. Start over. Again, just start over.
right, folks, we're going to reconvene. We're going to get back to our meeting.
Oh, maybe you beat me that time, but I don't know. You're sorry, bro. Don't be sorry. You did the right thing. I'm happy.
All right, thank you. All right, I'm going to bring our meeting back to order. All right, now, it appears that we're on 12.2, Mr. Camelo. What do you think? Did I have it right this time? All right, I'll let you introduce the item. And so, do you have anything to say before I turn it over to Mr. Walsh?
I do not, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Walsh. Thank you. 12.2.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm going to handle this item. And before I start, though, I just want to kind of acknowledge for the council, this is a little bit of an unusual item. This isn't the way that we typically do things, but I wanted to offer a little explanation as to why. Essentially, staff was moving forward in a couple months ago with an ordinance that took a position with regard to how we would treat covered porches with regard to the measurement of floor area in residential districts. We received a lot of public comment on that, which I mentioned at the first time this came forward. In light of that, we wanted to spend some more time, talk to the folks who had given that public comment, and spend some more time looking at this issue and make sure that we're understanding it properly. We did that. We met with a number of people, or I met with a number of people in the community about this issue, spent more time with it, and really kind of reversed what I thought the current state of our code was on this issue. And so, but I also felt like we needed to get some clarity in our code as to how we were dealing with covered porches, so we didn't kind of revisit the confusion that we had on this issue, which I thought necessitated some changes to the ordinance that we have, our zoning code. But as part of that, I didn't want to assume the direction that the council would want us to go in this, and so I wanted to bring forward an item for discussion by council and get some direction on how the council would like us to treat uncovered balconies, porches, or decks. I did want to be clear because there was, it seemed like it wasn't clear based on some of the public comment that staff is not taking a position on this. We aren't advocating for a specific approach. We're just looking for council direction on how you want us to move forward on this. Eric, can we go to the next slide? So just by a lot of this is in our my staff report, and so I'm not going to go into it in excruciating detail, but we went through a comprehensive change to the zoning ordinance as implementation item in connection with our general plan that we adopted in 2020. And as part of that zoning ordinance update, in response to some of the initial feedback that we got from residents and our council and planning commission subcommittee that was working on the zoning code update, we made a change to how we dealt with kind of measurement of the size of buildings within our residential area, where we removed the requirement that we use floor area ratio standards within those residential districts, and instead established a maximum gross floor area standard within those districts. Next slide, Erica. So, this change resulted in a change in the range of the sizes of buildings within different lot sizes, and the net change resulted in a slightly reduced allowable floor area. And as part of that, the maximum, as part of the standard that we put in place, there's an end node in section 17.16.030 that sets those measurements for the MR district, the medium density residential district. And I have that slide basically for reference for council if we need to go back to it, so you have a general sense of what the expectation of gross floor area within those areas is. Next slide. So there's different standards that we use. There's essentially standards that we use that limit gross floor area, and then in order to determine what gross floor area is, in a separate section of the code, we have specific rules of measurement that tell us how we calculate gross floor area, and there's separate rules of measurement that apply to industrial districts. But as part of the rules of measurement for gross floor area, there's a requirement that in cases where no walls exist, the area covered by the roof, excluding 2 feet on each side of the structure, for a standard roof projection, shall be included in the floor area or the floor area determination. In contrast, and potentially creating a conflict, which has been kind of the source of some of this confusion that's occurred, is that in EndNote 5B, under the standards that exist in the code, there is a specific exemption for balconies, porches, decks, and other structures that are unenclosed on at least 3 sides. And so this creates some confusion because there's a potential inconsistency between those two. If you say that an area, a covered balcony, porch, or deck is exempted, but on the other hand, in the rules of measurement, it exists or is included as part of the area. So there was some confusion based on that on staff's part in the implementation of this issue. There's been significant public dialogue on this. I've talked with many people on this. I know many of the council members have. So I'm not going to rehash all that here. But in light of that, we did look at this more carefully. And while the city's position initially was that the exemption in EndNote 5 was should only have applied to uncovered balconies, porches, and decks. We revised our opinion on that, or I've revised my opinion on that, and I don't think that's the case. I think that the current state of the law of our code is that that covered balconies, porches, and decks, and other structures, other similar structures that enclose on at least 3 sides, should not be included as part of the gross floor area calculation. So, and as I'm sure the council knows, there was a change that was improperly made to the zoning code to state that applied only to uncovered porches, decks, etc. We removed that incorrect reference, and that's why we're bringing it back to get direction on this issue. So in light of all these these potential inconsistencies, we want to clean up the code so we don't have to go through this issue again, so that everyone in the community and the council and staff have clarity on how we are treating these covered areas. And so what we're asking from council is how you want to treat those areas. And essentially the question is, should covered balconies, porches, decks, and other structures, should they be excluded from gross floor area? Or in the alternative, when you're calculating gross floor area, should they be included? There's been a lot of public comment giving some of the policy justifications for different sides of this, but just to rehash what I put in my staff report, kind of the initial thinking, I think, from staff's perspective and from our zoning code consultant's perspective, was that inclusion of these areas in within gross floor area essentially is another mechanism by which to decrease the overall size of the structure by including those areas in that calculation. And when you decrease the size of the structure, that can result in more modest homes. It kind of deters people from coming in, tearing down the building, and trying to maximize the size of whatever they put up on that lot. So it's kind of an intent to keep with the character of the city as it exists right now. Roofed areas, and again, this is all subjective. This is all kind of in the eye of the beholder, but roofed areas can contribute to the overall massing of a structure when you're looking at it from the street or from the sidewalk, and add to the perceived size of the building, which could, create a sense of a building that's out of character with the neighborhood. And staff has received concerns from time to time from members of the public of that occurring, of more modest houses being torn down and being replaced with houses that are significantly larger and not in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. So this would be an additional limitation in the overall size of the homes and associated structures that would be allowed in lots in the residential neighborhood. Next slide, Erica. There are obviously many reasons on the other side of this. They've been raised in a number of the public comments that you've received, but just to summarize some of them, some people have pointed out that there are many covered balconies within the city, especially the older parts of the city, and have asserted with some justification that they're consistent with the character of the city, and then including them as part of the gross floor area would discourage their use, because homeowners would be forced to decide between having a covered outdoor area and an interior space. Covered outdoor areas can also help with the natural cooling and shading of the interior of the homes and provide outdoor shaded areas that could be used by the public, especially in the hotter months of the year. They've raised concerns about this creating legal non-conforming uses for existing homes that were developed based on the assumption that covered porches or covered balconies, et cetera, are not included as part of the gross floor area. That is true. That could happen in some cases. That does not mean that they can't continue on, but it does mean that those homeowners would not be able to expand their house beyond the existing size. And that can restrict your flexibility. And if someone has a change in life circumstance, a larger family, elderly relatives coming to live with them, whatever, it doesn't give them a lot of flexibility to go beyond their existing space. And next slide, Erica. And just to give some visual context, and I'm not necessarily going to offer any perspective on this, but just so you have a sense of the types of covered areas that would be covered as part of this in the event that we had that we went with including the covered balconies, et cetera. You look at the overhang in a building like this, that would be included as part of the gross floor area. Next slide, Erica. Oh, sorry. This is a more traditional covered area that you would see that would also be covered as part of gross floor area as part of this. You can look at and see what you think in terms of, if that affects the overall perspective of the house or not. And then lastly, kind of a larger covered patio that extends off the property to see, another perspective of what this could look like. That is my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions from the council at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. I appreciate that. Any initial clarifying questions? It seems so simple, but it's rather complex.
I think the language is overly complex. I think the issue is not, it's not that complex, and it's just, but there's different policy perspective as to the direction you want to go with it. And so we wanted council to be able to make that decision, not kind of dictate that from a staff level, given the level of public interest on this.
Right. I want to open it to public comment, but I'm curious. So I can see the conflict between the rules of measurement and exemptions. The language is a little different. When I read the code, I go, well, rules of measurement would never even come into play with an exemption. The exemption is obvious, so you would never even need to use rules of measurement when discussing an exemption, because the two don't go together, one's not needed, the exemption basically overrules any rules of measurement. So I'd be curious why, maybe I'm not seeing it right, why would rules of measurement ever even come into play in the discussion?
So I guess the way that I think about it is that as a first step, you have the limitations, and then you find out if you're reaching the limitations by looking at the rules of measurement, and then you find out, kind of what your overall kind of package is as far as what your gross floor area would be, and then you look at the exemptions and you carve out whatever would be excluded. So you exempt out kind of from the calculation that, or the determination that you made at the front end. In this case, though, with the exemption for covered porches, because uncovered porches, if you look at the rules of measurement and what is included in the rules of measurement, it only covers covered areas. It only includes covered areas. So there would be no reason for an exemption for balconies, et cetera, unless they were covered. And so that's how I ultimately came to the conclusion that my initial reading of it was wrong, and that under the current code, it should be those covered areas should be exempted. So I think you and I are probably looking at it a little bit differently, but we're coming to the same conclusion.
I understand that. It's interesting that we lump in patios, balconies, and porches. In my mind, I would look at each one completely differently. And from my experience, I've been here for 35 years, and a balcony is to me a little bit different than a front porch for a number of reasons. And I've been on the council long enough to know that folks have been concerned about their privacy and those kinds of things. Those issues have come up. The issues about massing, I use that in quotes because everybody has a different idea what that means, has come up repeatedly. It came up through the zoning code update process repeatedly. There are a number of examples throughout town where typically remodels, but occasionally a tear down and a rebuild, where these homes have gotten rather large, and I don't want to make judgments about that. So I understand, I guess, the goal to be achieved. I don't really understand, because of my ignorance in the subject matter, how much of a difference one tool would make over another tool. In other words, we have these other zoning code amendments that we've made in terms of lot coverage and the different changes based on the size of a lot. Would this extra tool make a huge difference to exempt it or not exempt it, or would it be very minimal? And maybe that's a hard thing to judge because no one knows until you actually implement it and see how the market responds to it. But I see it as sort of a very small part of a larger set of tools. And if you take one tool away, would the other tools be sufficient to meet, to be aligned with our community's values, which are not always cohesive? But do you understand the point I'm making?
I think I do. I guess what I would say is that I guess it depends on what you think of covered porches and whether you think they have an impact on the on kind of the way that you look at the house and the visual perspective that you have on it. From my perspective, dealing with porches in this way is if, as I think I didn't write the code, right? It was written by a consultant, but I think it's a little bit of an odd way to deal with the problem of massing, to deal with porches specifically. It seems like including that is, if you read the rules of measurement, there's language in there that talks about you determine the gross floor area based on the enclosed spaces. But then there's a separate section that says it includes all covered spaces. And so there's a conflict there to begin with. I guess the way that you would generally think of gross floor area, at least from my perspective, is that it's the kind of interior livable space of the property, and dealing with porches as part of that just seems a little off to me, but it was the way that we had it in our code.
Yeah.
And so it's something that we want to clarify, or at least it's a perception that we have in our code.
Do we have a definition in our code of the meaning of unenclosed? We use terminology like walls. I know what a wall is, but there are other enclosures that are not walls. And do we want, if there are screen porches, for example, it doesn't look like we're getting to that narrow. Well, this is giving you direction at some point to kind of look, staff direction to look at some of these things. I think we need to make that determination, and maybe for my council, maybe separate out to a certain degree. I don't want to get in the weeds here, the discussion on balconies and porches. Anyway, I'm getting into a lengthy conversation. I want to open it for public comment, unless there are clarifying questions of Mr. Walsh at this point. Go ahead and make your last comment there in response, but I don't want to get too far along. I've already violated my own rule.
Sure. So one thing that I would say that complicates things a little bit is there is a definition of porches in the code.
Okay.
Balcony and porches are specifically defined as being covered. Okay. Right? But balconies, patios, those aren't defined in the code. So I do think porches are certainly distinct, and the code makes clear that they're distinct, but those other terms are not defined terms in the code.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Let me take some public comment on the issue. I'm sure there's some folks, there's been a number of letters written, and appreciate that. Thank you, community, for doing that. But I'll open it for public comment to kind of get the juices flowing here for our council. Mr. Hale, how are you?
Thank you. On June 13th, the city attorney issued a formal memorandum. The most reasonable interpretation of covered balconies, porches, and decks should not be counted towards maximum gross floor area in residential zones. This corrects a prior interpretation that improperly influenced the Planning Commission's recommendation. Any action or policy based on that earlier misinterpretation, I believe, should be reconsidered. I'd also like to make absolutely clear that the code was not ambiguous. The approved zoning code was clear and properly adopted. Projects were designed in good faith based on the legally approved sections of code. The described ambiguity only arose when it was discovered that staff had introduced language into code that was never publicly exposed or approved by Planning Commission or City Council. This unvetted policy change circumvented formal amendment procedures and materially changed the way law was applied. That sort of activity naturally also places our municipal code at risk of decertification, and also places the city generally in legal peril. The footnote 1 in staff report claims that roof areas, even if unenclosed, the size of a building. This claim is not supported by fact, and in many cases is demonstrably false. In reality, porches do not contribute to the perceived massing of a structure. Covered but unenclosed porches create visual depth, activate the site, and establish a gentler transition between public and private realms. These features often soften a building's presence on the street and break up otherwise monolithic facades. Some have mentioned the scale of roof lines as seen from above from aerial imagery or drones, but our lived experience of buildings is not aerial, it's pedestrian. The view from the sidewalk and the ground, our most common important point of engagement, should guide how we evaluate massing and neighborhood character. From this perspective, porches are not oppressive bulk, but critical buffers. Including porches and patios in ground floor calculations would discourage their creation and maintenance, forcing homeowners to choose between indoor areas and outdoor living. It would contradict St. Helena's historic character, which embraces porches as defining valued features. It would undermine energy efficiency, eliminating passive cooling benefits essential to Title 24 compliance. It would also exacerbate fire safety challenges as new regulations come into play that reduce the proximity to shade trees, making built shade increasingly essential to livability. It would also limit flexibility for evolving homeowner needs, for example, working from home, elder care, or children moving home, or you have an extra kid. It would reduce property values by removing functional, desirable outdoor space, and it would create legal nonconformities for existing homes, limiting their ability to remodel or expand. Porches offer high-value, low-cost, usable space, improving both affordability and livability. As essential social architecture, porches serve as informal gathering spaces, promoting interaction and connection. Porches naturally exist in three conditions: open on one, two, or three sides. They're all effective, but creating a law that can be equally applied matters. That is why it is important that the code should be written to state that porches open on at least one side are excluded from floor area. That is why it was originally written in that form. Lot coverage already regulates roofed areas. If existing porches are counted towards ground floor area, they could be legally enclosed without exceeding ground floor area limits, potentially leading to greater enclosed mass, not less. This raises important questions. Could the city stand against enclosing a non-conforming existing porch? I'll be real quick.
Thank you.
Could the city charge impact fees for enclosing something that declared by edict after the fact and counted as enclosed? Such inconsistencies disrupt the internal logic of the municipal code and could cause unintended consequences across multiple sections. In conclusion, I recommend that covered porches, patios, and decks, when open on at least one side, should remain excluded from gross floor area calculations and continue to be regulated by lot coverage, which is consistent with their design purpose. Porches should be encouraged, not penalized, as essential elements of thoughtful, community-supportive design. This approach aligns with the updated legal interpretation, preserves code consistency and public trust, and supports high-quality architectural outcomes, and reinforces the values of historical character, community livability, and legal integrity. Thanks for your consideration.
All right, thank you. I appreciate you speeding up at the end. You can take a breath now. All right, others wishing to approach and address your counsel on this item? Ms. Cobell, how are you?
Good evening, Mayor Doring and City Council members. Here to oppose the same thing, the change to eliminate the exemption for covered porches, balconies, and other open-air structures from the calculation of gross floor area for residences. This proposition does not align with the language of the 2040 general plan as I read it, or the 2019 housing element documents that were developed to guide the 2023 updates to the St. Helena Municipal Code Chapter 17 zoning update. The original mandate of the 2040 general plan called for updates to zoning standards to encourage the following criteria, among others that were listed: setbacks, building massing, and configuration consistent with older parts of neighborhoods. Notably, this section does not reference floor area, nor does it instruct the city to require these characteristics, only to encourage them. Absent is any call for the reduction of allowable floor areas, not to mention the regulation of open air structures like porches. The language was instead a call for thoughtful contextual design and not a mandate to limit architectural expression or flexibility. Dan just read off a great list of all of the virtues of porches that I would, also like to, as an architect, agree with and reinforce. And just looking at some of the slides Mr. Walsh showed, I think you can see that the historic fabric of the neighborhood is really designed around the porch. And maybe not every house has them, but surely mostly do. And I don't know why we would want to pass a rule that would discourage them. The building scale and massing item is sufficiently addressed by other rules already added to the new code. Lot coverage rules exist to restrict the total building footprint, including porches. The 2023 zoning code update reduced the lot coverage percentage from 40 to 35%. So we're already addressing that in the zoning code. Street frontage was addressed. Setback lines, height limits, and step back rules were added to further limit and confine massing to a fixed envelope with or without those masses being covered porches. So there's only an envelope that you can work to as it is, whether it's a porch or not a porch. As a building designer, I urge the council to not consider this proposal, to vote no, and preserve the long-standing exemption for most covered porches and balconies from residential floor area calculations. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Others wishing to comment?
Hi, Christine Hale, 1851 Madrona. I just also wanted to oppose the change that adding the word uncovered. I do think that porches are essential. I also look at it from the rear porches, not just the front porch, but even in the back areas. Sometimes people need to get out of the sun around here. It does encourage people to be outside, be more community oriented. I also can't see a thing without it. We already reduced the gross floor area in the zoning code that was updated in October 2023, and everyone was congratulating themselves on how wonderful it was that we had accomplished everything there. So I don't understand why we need to reduce them even further. It was presented as a clerical edit. Obviously, it's not a clerical edit. And honestly, even if there are a lot of other changes that happened in this from the published code from the previous code, and we have asked for a list of those things. I have not seen that yet. We haven't been able to get a list of all the changes that happened, and some of those might be clerical edits, but even moving a comma changes the meaning of a sentence. So it's really important that we actually see what those changes are. So I would encourage the staff to provide those. Like we said, environmentally, the other thing I love about a porch, and especially covered areas, and a good extensive covered area, is the shade that it provides interior. It keeps our house cool. We've rarely used air conditioning because we try to have good overhangs. So anything over 2 feet counts as covered area here on this edit. So anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi,
Ms.
everybody.
Covell. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Michelle Lou Covell. I wanted to say a couple of things before I dive into my very short speech.
Short is good.
To address Mr. Walsh's and Mayor Doring, your dialogue, the rules of measurement is not where you go to calculate. It is the rules of measurement, and I've said this over and over in public comment. So I have actually prepared a much more comprehensive document that addresses Mr. Walsh's staff report that he put online today. I did not send it to you all today, but I will follow up with that shortly. Before I start, I wanted to say that when I say A2F in my following speech, I'm referring to 17.34.50 A2F as referenced in Mr. Walsh's staff report. A2F rolls off the tongue a little bit better. When I first became aware of the word uncovered insertion, I gave staff the benefit of the doubt. I assumed it must be a simple misunderstanding, something that could be quickly resolved with a phone call. Upon the last few months of meetings and dialogue, it is evident that this is not a misunderstanding. The inclusion of the word uncovered, the change from one unenclosed side to 3 sides unenclosed, and the edit to item A2F are not minor or clerical. These are deliberate edits that result in down zoning, reducing development rights under the guise of technical adjustments. These so-called minor edits resemble the concept of death by 1,000 cuts. Initially, I considered that these changes might have been made in error. staff report itself indicates policy-driven motives behind these edits. The rationale appears to be tied to broader goals, such as addressing affordable housing by restricting property development and reducing land values, which in turn aims to lower resale prices. This is in the staff report. This is classic down zoning. The insertion of the term uncovered and other modifications were made outside the proper zoning text amendment process. This process exists for a reason, to ensure transparency, public input, and legal compliance. These changes were improperly labeled as clerical edits and presented in a way that masks their true policy impact. This is not a simple oversight. It is a strategic move to reframe significant policy changes as routine corrections. Whoever within staff is responsible for these so-called logical adjustments is advancing a down zoning agenda without proper disclosure or public discussion. It is being framed as a harmless administrative fix full of fiscal impact, when in fact it fundamentally alters zoning entitlements. The question at hand is not whether the word uncovered belongs in the exemption. That has already been answered by the city attorney, has clarified it should not have been inserted. The real question is, how will accountability be held for these unauthorized insertions? We now understand why. Until this question is addressed, the cycle of non-transparent edits will continue.
Your time has expired, so you can bring your comments to a close.
This is my closing statement. I mean, it's not very long.
Thank you.
This puts the town at legal and financial risk. We, the residents, will bear the cost through diminished property values, reduced permit and school fee revenues, and continued erosion of public trust. This is not clerical. This is not accidental. It is illegal and unethical. The town has already spent considerable resources avoiding the central issue. We live here. We pay taxes to support this town and its staff. Staff serves all residents, not a select few. The fiscal and legal impacts.
Your time has expired, so you're going to have to finish now.
Okay. I mean, literally, it's 3 more sentences.
Please finish, ma'am.
Impacts allow staff to continue making unvetted zoning edits are significant. The consequences will be lasting. City Council, I respectfully urge you to ask the hard but necessary questions. Why has its illegality not been addressed? Please direct the city attorney who works for you, not me, to provide a clear answer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Others wishing to address your city council on this item? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close the public comment and bring it back to the council for discussion about direction to the staff on this question of whether we should exclude covered patios, porches, and decks from the calculations of the gross floor area. There's another nuanced part of that Mr. Hale brought up in terms of closed on one side, or unenclosed on one side, or 2 sides or 3 sides. There's more of that discussion. I know there's been a fair amount of comment about how we got here. Folks want to talk about that. I don't particularly think it's helpful for focusing on the issue at hand, but it could be. If you think there's a process issue going forward that we need to address, I think right now we're sort of focused in on this exclusion or not, and really the policies around it and how best to meet the policies around it. I think that's, if we stick to that, I think we can make progress. You have that eye to me, Ms. Deasy, so I'll let you get started. I can see that you want to be recognized.
No.
Maybe not.
I can wait.
Okay, no, go ahead.
Thank you, everyone, for the preparation and the comments. I would say I would be supportive of, let me make sure I get it right, of excluding covered, is that right? Excluding covered balconies from gross floor area. So that's the big picture question?
Yeah, and
Porches, what did I just say? Balconies, I meant I meant porches.
And
Patios.
that is, and it's a fair point that Mr. Hale made that I didn't bring up in mine. There is also this question related to, there's two different sections. One is there's a section in the floor area ratio provisions of the code that that deal with covered areas, and I'm sorry, I don't have the language right in front of me, but but talk about there being one side that's unenclosed, right? There is another mistake in the code where there was a change made that I thought had been reverted back to what it should be. It hasn't been changed yet, but we'll make sure that gets done. Mr. Park pointed that out. He's right. That change hasn't been made yet, but it will be. Which is the section that deals with the exemption for residential areas. It does reference this enclosed on three sides issue. That was in the that language was in the original code, but it has been brought up as not necessarily, some people have the perspective that Mr. Hale gave that that it shouldn't be included, that those areas should also be exempted.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, go
Okay,
ahead.
so the character, the shading and the cooling, and the not putting homes into legal non-conforming status are all pretty compelling to me. I was just going to say that it is not lost on me that in a time when we're resource constrained, we have spent a lot of money on this. So I would like to find a path forward that's cost conscious, legally appropriate, responsive to public concern, and future focused. And so I'm just wondering, when we give you direction to go write a whole bunch of stuff, do we need to do that? Or can we, like for the sake of efficiency, revert to the code, to the version that was originally approved by council? I think covered outdoor spaces counted towards, right? They count towards lot coverage. The rules of measurement are addressed, and then just bring us fixes to support that intent. Anyway, I'm just wondering, how can we do this simply? That's my question. If others agree.
I will try to do it as simply as I can. I promise you that. And I think the most efficient path forward would be to address the issues that are being raised in the public. As you note from public comment, all the comments that I've seen recently are on one side of the issue, and so. One of the reasons why I think we've spent a lot of time on this is because we were taking one approach and there was some significant concern with that approach. And so more time was spent. That's just, I'm trying to be candid here. That's what I think would be most efficient.
Ms. Badarato, what are your thoughts in terms of the direction? Do you agree with the statements by Ms. Deasy, or do you have a different approach or maybe more nuanced approach? What say you?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In all honesty, I don't even know why we're I don't know what was wrong with the code to begin with, why it was being changed. What was the necessity to change it? I don't understand. But that's not saying that there wasn't a necessity or what have you. But I do agree with Mr. Hale's comments. I don't think that anything that's a porch or a balcony should be included. That's my personal opinion.
Mr. Summers, what say you?
I'm in total support of excluding any covered patios, porches, decks, or none the like. I just don't feel like it's fair. It's not normal. It's not traditional as well. So stepping out of how the market works regarding real estate and how we quantify value of homes, etc. Let's be part of. Let's not be separate. Let's make it easy. Let's eliminate, streamline, minimize, And I'm glad that we could shine light on it. And thank you, Michelle and others that were able to just, take part as active citizens. So here we are making decisions. Feels so grown up. I love it. Let's exclude it. I'm in favor of exclusion.
All right. Mr. Barrick, what do you think about feeling grown up?
I can't be expected to follow that, but I'll try. I'm with what looks like the consensus here. I'm just philosophically more for personal property rights. I don't like socially engineering people's personal real property, although I know there's the necessity to do that to a point. So that's where I'm falling, Mr. Mayor.
All right. All right, and I join my counsel, and so I think we have consensus. I don't know what that means to you. More work to be done.
So we do have to do an ordinance. So what I'll do is I'll prepare an ordinance, has to go to planning commission, and then that ordinance will, for a recommendation, and that ordinance will come back to you. I'll prepare the ordinance. I'll run it by some of the folks who are particularly interested in this issue to make sure that we can bring this forward as smoothly as possible, and then we'll take it to planning commission.
All right. Any other comments, council members? You know, I know there's a difference of opinion in terms of how the staff approach the issue, and everybody will come to their own judgment about it, and I'll let people do that. You're all entitled to that. The judgment I've come to may be different than yours. My judgment is based on 11 years on the council and seeing how the zoning code update evolved over time, that our staff was, in my mind, trying to do its best to align the code with the feelings that have been brought forth in various surveys throughout the process. Did they get it right or not? That's up to folks to judge. I don't, the whole notion of what happened had an effect on these properties. Not this is one thing, but the whole regimen itself in terms of what happened with lot coverage and all the various changes. So this is one area. It can't really stand alone. It has to be taken into context with all of the other things that happened. And it could be argued that it's reasonable to say what we're doing is consistent with what we were asked to do. And others may have a different opinion about that, but I do give the benefit of the doubt to staff because I think that's the best way to approach life. To carry that burden of going, somebody tried to screw me, is not the way I operate, and I don't think it's healthy for anyone. I don't think it's the way we do things, and it's not productive. I think what we're doing now is trying to correct an issue. We're all having a different idea how it came, but we're all acting in good faith to try to correct it. That's the good news here. We're trying to correct the issue. Again, I'm not going to take issue with folks who have deep, heartfelt feelings, and I do in my law practice, where there are times you go, wow, I can't believe that just happened to me. So I understand that feeling because it happens all the time. A lot of that heartfelt opinion is good, but let's work together as a community, see where we have gone sort of off the rails, get back on the rails, try to fix things for the benefit of our community. Not for any particular business or any particular occupation or any particular person, but for the community. And I think our council is community focused, and I think we can make the change very quickly. Don't you think so, Mr. Walsh? All right.
Yes.
All right. Anything else, Ms. Pattero? Okay. All right. Thank you for that. We can move on now to, and thank you for all the written comment and the public comment. All right. All right, from porches to B. Are we on B's now? B's. Okay, keep me straight here. I missed the meeting, so my rhythm is a little out of pace here, but Mr. Camelo, let's talk B's.
12.3, I'll turn it over to Director Leach.
Thank you, City Manager Camelo, and Mayor and council members. This is just a bringing back to you an item that we had brought to you previously. I think what had been brought to you previously invoked some conversation in the community, invoked some public comment, and so we're bringing this item back to you with the hopes of understanding that we have both the vendor as well as members of the community have engaged in hopefully a productive conversation, but we'll talk through this process. So we'll go to the next slide. And I don't know if we have a lot of ringing, if others can hear that ringing, or if that's just inside my head. Okay. Just summary of the proposed agreement. And really isn't different from last time, but really we're engaging in a lease agreement, a license agreement with Towser Apiaries between Towser and the city of St. Helena. The locations, as you see on the map, are 2 locations at the wastewater treatment plant located at the end of Shacks Lane. These are within the area that is kind of labeled as spray fields. The areas in the what I would consider yellow rectangles, I am colorblind, so feel free to correct my coloring on that. They are, it's within the city property. They're not, they may get some nominal overspray at different times when it's windy, but they're not actively irrigated during the activation of the spray fields. Really what we're proposing to do is allow Towser Apiaries to place and maintain honeybee hives on city property. The area of use is a little under 13,000 square feet, as you can see from the exhibit, and we'll move to the next slide. Benefits of the agreement: productive use of vacant property. The area is utilized for sustainable agriculture. Environmental benefits: enhances pollination, supports local ecosystems, and encourages beekeeping and local honey production. Next slide, please. In terms of the agreement, provides Towser with access rights and to maintain and operate their hives. The placement is designated on the exhibit as you had seen, and the restrictions are the areas to be used exclusively for beekeeping activities. No other particular activities are allowed. Next slide. And financial consideration is an annual fee of $500 per year. It's due on July 1st, and the purpose of the fee is covers property use, maintenance, oversight, primarily administration. And then from there, next slide. In terms of renewal, its effective date would be January 28th, so this is retroactive. Duration is an annual agreement, but it's subject to renewal termination, and renewal terms are outlined in the lease agreement based upon notification. And next slide. And some of the items that came up during the last presentation, concerns over risk of pathogens, excessive hive density, loss of forage. These were all kind of brought up by community members, public comments. And then moving to the next slide. This is a response from Towser Apiaries. It was also included as an attachment in the staff report where they go through and concerns, the hive density, pesticide exposure, and environmental stewardship. Again, this was all part of the presentation package, staff report package. Next slide. And so the recommendation this evening is to approve a resolution that authorizes execution of a license agreement with Towser Apiaries for the placement and maintenance of honeybee hives on city-owned property. And I also want to let you know that we do have a representative from Towser Apiaries on Zoom this evening. And so she is available to respond to any questions, comments from both council and the public. And with that, we will field any questions at this time.
Any initial clarifying questions, my colleagues? I have. Go ahead, Mr. Summers.
Go ahead, Mayor.
I'm just, maybe I didn't catch the nuance in the staff report, but how did this thing all come about? Who approached who? When did that happen? You know,
yeah,
I know about it very tangentially, but it seems kind of odd. It's like, did somebody knock on our door and say, hey, we want to use your wastewater treatment plant area?
I think the short answer is yes. I think we were approached, I want to say 2 years ago, by Towser about the opportunity to utilize a small area of the unused spray fields. And so at the time we thought, okay, sure, let's explore this. And we didn't have a model agreement to do that. So we said, well, it's a public space, so let's go through an encroachment permit process and test that for a year. I think what we learned over the course of the year is how the bees interact with and the proximity of the hives with the community forest and some of the advocates of the forest with some of the educational things that they were doing at the time. And so with that, we learned, you know, let's move the hives a little bit further away. And so as you see on the exhibit, they're moved further away from the community forest with the hopes that there's not an interaction between both those who are doing plantings as well as educational component. But I think I think we did 1 year of an encroachment permit, and this is kind of into our second year. And we said, well, let's move towards some type of an agreement.
All right. So then, in your mind or the staff, city's mind, how do you judge the success of the contract or the partnership or the collaboration? How do you judge the success? Because that's where I want to focus. We look a year from now, we're going to say this was a great, or this was a failure, or this was an ecological disaster, or this was. I'm not suggesting I want to get to that point, but I at least want to know what we're going to do, because I noticed some, and maybe the representative can answer this, that there was a commitment to do some environmental assessment. I'm wondering, have we done environmental assessment over the last year? Because we've had a year of testing, and I don't want to be the one paying for that, but I think we should have some objective way of looking at whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. What are your thoughts, Mr. Leach?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say that it really kind of depends on if that's a goal that we want embedded into this agreement. Kind of a condition of the agreement is that Towser provides some element of a presentation at the end that says this is the educational component that we provided. This is the number of, I don't know, gallons of honey that were produced out of these hives as a direct result of the hive's engagement in this community. I mean, so I don't really have a sense of how to quantify what the city gets out of it.
Okay.
And maybe the representative can provide some insight as to what they've done in other locations that they've have similar lease agreements.
Yeah, there are a number of concerns, potential concerns, pathogens, ecological concerns,
Certainly.
disruption of native bees, those kinds of things. For me, that's like people are speculating that could happen.
Certainly.
Or maybe it won't happen, or maybe it'll be controlled to some extent because of the management of the operation. As a city council member, I don't know. I'm in speculation mode whether that will turn out good for us or bad for us. And we want to know at the end of the contract, or at some point, even in the middle of the contract, whether we're on the right path or not, and have the ability to go, ooh, this is not good for the community forest, or this is not good for whatever for our community.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And I don't know what that is. I'm just throwing it out there.
No,
Maybe my colleagues can come up with other ideas, because I don't know what they are.
Well, and I think at this point, I would want to pause and allow the representative from Towser to kind of speak to both where they've done similar agreements in other agencies, as well as some of the conversations that they've had with some of the stakeholders, both since the last meeting and just kind of ongoing. So.
Yeah. And I'm happy to do that, but I'm gonna push back a little bit, saying that's the city's obligation to be the one to confirm with verifiable facts that this is the case, rather than not maybe right now, but at some point. I don't know. We want to completely leave it up to the vendor to tell us, hey, it was a success, right?
Sure.
We have to have some way of judging the validity of that. But I'm happy to listen to the representative talk about that. Can you hear? And do you have some of the questions in mind that I've been asking, ma'am?
Yeah, definitely.
Go ahead.
I kind of made some notes. Some of the things that we have been talking with some of the stakeholders is making a change to the license agreement so that the honeybees are there only in the fall and winter. So that would look something like they would only be there September 15th through January 15th, which would be kind of considered the winter months. This is a time that native pollinators are not typically emerging and using floral resources. So we would, in the eagerness to collaborate and cooperate, we want to address those concerns, and we can eliminate a good bit of that overlap. And it still would be a great resource for our honeybees. So that's one recommendation that we received from some of the stakeholders that we talked with. The other thing is that we do take data on the disease load. So we have, hard data. We test our honeybees. I do want to point out that many of the diseases that are crossover with those other species are not very common. So you wouldn't necessarily be seeing those types of diseases like, for example, nosema, deformed wing virus, some of those other bacterial chalk brood. You wouldn't necessarily be seeing those in an operation similar to ours of professional beekeepers. Those are more commonly found in backyard beekeeping hives just because the level of testing and treatment might be lower. And so we're happy to provide you with, for example, we do field reports on each visit. We're looking at symptoms of disease. That's something we could do. On the flip side of that, though, there are not very many studies of the area that show what is the current population of native bees. And so in measuring success, it might be hard to know if it's successful in impacting native bees when we don't know what the starting threshold might be.
How do you propose to develop a baseline about the current health of the existing native population so that you can then judge what, if any, damage has occurred over the course of the contract? I know that's a difficult question, but that's what I'm
that's
seeking.
a big research question right now that a lot of scientists are trying to figure out. I did provide you with some resources that we use because we try to choose places that are not the preferred nesting sites of those native pollinators. There are only 6 native pollinators in California that are considered threatened, and they're in mostly very specialized areas. And so the Beescape that I included that has the apiary decision-making tool report, you can see that the nesting availability for wild bees is already on the lower part of that scale, and that is year-round for the nesting availability, and that's an environmental concern. It doesn't have anything to do with the honeybees being there. It's more just about the environment, like most of them are ground nesting or they're living in hollowed stems, and so the way to increase that would be environmental changes. And then you can also see when the floral resources are available. And so if we changed our agreement to only be there in the winter, when the resources are not being used by those native bees, there are a couple like digger bees and mason bees, one bumblebee that emerges only in early January, and that's on very warm years. So I think that eliminating us being there in that early spring and early summer would kind of cut out that competition. But yeah, there's not, there are so many reports, I go through this all the time. It's my job. And there are literally research projects on how to count bees better. And there's not a great number. There's a few studies that are being done, but it's relying a lot on citizen scientists because it's just, there are more insects than us in this world. So
Let me stop you there and open it for public comment. Anybody wishing to talk about this matter? I know the porch conversation was extremely exciting, but this is going to get even more exciting. Stick with us, folks at home. As he pulls it up on his phone. You got that memorized, come on.
Nah, I wrote it this afternoon.
How are you? Welcome.
Hi, my name is Martin Podell. I'm president of the Napa County Beekeepers Association.
Say your name one more time, please.
Martin Podell.
Thank you.
Podell. Our club, our mission is supporting Napa's beekeeping community through educational outreach, treatment-free management, and pollinator habitat advocacy. We are a local nonprofit with members that are both hobbyist and professional beekeepers in and around St. Helena and throughout Napa County. Regarding the placement of large commercial bee apiaries being moved into the county and onto public lands, we would like to share some of our concerns with the council members. Primarily, our first is environmental impact. Simply put, this adds too many bees to our environment that our land is actually able to support in a healthy way. Ideally, one hive needs about an acre of clean forage, so clean pollinating plants that are per hive. Do the math on the acres. Also, our local agriculture is primarily monoculture grapes that do not produce pollen and nectar for pollinating bees. This added pressure on limited resources and availability increases the strain on other honeybees and native pollinators. Hives in such close proximity with overly dense bee populations can cause stress and spread diseases and parasites among other neighboring colonies, especially at the time of year that's being suggested that these hives are moved in It's what we consider the dearth. There's not a whole lot of pollinating plants blooming at that time. That's accurate. That means that hungry bees are going to go looking for food elsewhere. One of their primary sources is other colonies. Weaker colonies, they'll go into them, in a term that's called robbing. They go attack that colony, take all of their honey stores, and remove them. We are also concerned with the introduction of non-local genetics to our local bee population passed through open mating. Honeybees mate through open mating. Queens fly out on their mating flight. They mate with multiple drones from other colonies. That is what we're trying to also make folks aware of, that we want to make sure that the bees that are being bred and raised in our county, in our area, are adapted to our environment. Commercially mite-treated hives could possibly introduce treatment-resistant mites to the local population. These mites were partially responsible for the extreme colony collapse that affected many commercial beekeepers last winter, with the industry suffering an average loss rate of 70%, and in some cases, some beekeepers lost 100% of their apiaries. Financial impacts. As local beekeepers living in the area, we pay local business taxes and luxury business taxes, property, and local sales taxes. All of these support our local cities and county financially. We also vote locally. Some of our members are also professional beekeepers. Their businesses are supported by local clients who are also citizens and business owners. Previously mentioned increased competition between bees for resources makes it more difficult for locally managed hives to build up the honey stores these businesses rely on, thus causing an additional financial hardship for local beekeepers. I appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you for yours. Others? Mr. Mann, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
We're the beneficiaries of a very lovely letter that you wrote, but you're welcome to give public comment, please.
Well, and I know you've read my comment.
Yes.
And I thank you all for that. And I just want to reiterate that there is no agricultural benefit to introducing 100+ honeybee hives to the wastewater treatment area. What you need to understand is that each hive may have 20 to 80,000 honeybees. So for every 100 hives you are introducing, 2 to 8 million bees of a single species into that environment, which will totally overwhelm the native bees and other pollinators. This is a direct threat to genetic biodiversity. And what I hope you all will consider is before voting, is the role St. Helena can and should play in supporting biodiversity at a time when the planet is experiencing an ongoing mass extinction rate event driven by human activity. Please do the right thing for your children and do not approve this resolution. And then I'm going to just add, because I have some time, the staff report concludes that Towser Apiaries has provided a detailed science-based response to the concerns raised by the advocates for the community forest. Based on my education, I have a bachelor's in zoology and a master's in biology, and experience contributing to, reading, and evaluating environmental impact reports over the past 40 years, I can say quite confidently that Towser's operational standards, as good as they might be, do not address the impact honeybees, which are competing for the same limited pollen sources, will have on the native bee population. Nor does Towser's response address the ultimate effect that might have on the time, money, and resources that have already been spent to create a natural, self-sustaining, and biodiverse habitat out by the wastewater treatment plant. Are you really going to jeopardize all the time, volunteer effort, and money spent to create a native and natural environment within our city limits for the sake of $500 a year? That makes no sense. And then I just want to add a couple of things. You're talking about, the area that the beehives are going to occupy. Those bees travel 2 to 3 miles, 2 to 3 mile radius to forage. So that's actually the area that you're talking about, not just where the location of the hives is. And I had one more thing. Yeah, Paul, I really appreciate your comments about needing a survey. We need a baseline, to know whether or not there's going to be an impact, or has been already, and we don't have that. So I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Deman.
Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. And
Dang,
your,
I have
your written
55
comments.
seconds left.
The mayor is always grateful for that.
Good evening. I wasn't going to make a comment, but there's an obvious question that hasn't been asked. Why? I think that the staff has already spent $500 in staff time preparing for this. Why? Why are we doing this? It doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. And I can't help but ask, why are we doing this? Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome. Good evening. My name is Christine Waskowiak. I have lived in the Napa Valley for about 35 years. I am a hobbyist beekeeper and part of the leadership of the Napa County Beekeepers Association, along with Martin. Our club membership includes beekeepers and non-beekeepers alike, all with a strong interest in the ecological health of our landscape and the well-being of the honeybee, but just as importantly, the native pollinators, which not only includes the native bees, but the butterflies, the beetles, the flies, myriad of other invertebrates, and even some mammals that rely on pollen from plants for their survival. While I am a hobbyist beekeeper myself, I am here to advocate for the native bees and pollinators, as well as the other hobbyist beekeepers. First, honeybees are generalists. So that simply means that they're able to go to a whole variety, many, many different flowers to get the required nectar and pollen. Native bees, on the other hand, typically are specialist foragers, and they rely on one or very few plant species for their survival. And so if that plant is not available, or if it has been spent, its stores, its nectar and pollen have been spent, the native bee is out of luck. Second, honeybees live in large colonies and are really, really good at communicating to each other where the high quality flowers are to be found. And we've all heard about the waggle dance. That's what that's all about. So as a community, they efficiently harvest pollen and nectar, hand it off to other workers once they're back at the hive, and then head out again. The native bee is kind of like a solo operator. They are solitary and do not have the benefit of colony communication and cooperative storage back at the hive. So given these differences, the honeybee easily outcompetes the native bee for the richest floral resources. Competition for the pollen is key because all bees, both native and honey, rely on it for feeding their young. No pollen, no babies. Third, and this has been brought up, is hive density, and that simply refers to the number of hives in a geographical area. Super, super important. 120 hives surrounded by flowering meadows is a really different story than 100 hives surrounded by vineyards, or let alone no plants at all. We know our vineyards are largely self-pollinating. Other agriculture, such as walnut trees and olive trees in the valley, are wind-pollinated. We really do not have a lot of crops in the valley that require these fast pollinating services. Having huge numbers of hives in the valley is akin to my inviting 200 guests into my small kitchen for dinner. My cabinets simply don't hold enough food, and the valley itself can only hold so much as well. Large numbers of hives in this area are going to empty the cabinets. Millions of additional honeybees will compete with the native bees and pollinators. Lastly, this will have a huge impact on hobbyist beekeepers in our region who really and truly try to be mindful of what their own landscapes can support. Whether we have a tiny little parcel of land or 3 acres, we're super conscious of what the hive density should be on our land. So should 100 hives be parked across the road from my 3 hives, I know for a fact that the bees in my care would decline. Can I do one more sentence, please?
Yes, as long as it's a 25-word sentence.
Oh dear, maybe 35 words?
Thank you.
Okay. I encourage the City of St. Helena and Napa County to examine the issue more closely, whether or not this particular hive placement is approved. I recommend establishing a cap on the allowable hive numbers, confirming that there is adequate forage available, requiring permits for large-scale hive placement on both public and private land, and requiring mitigation plans from large-scale beekeepers to reduce the impact on our natural ecosystems. An environmental assessment plan regarding native bee populations was mentioned, and I hugely support that.
That was 3 sentences, but who's counting? Well done. All right, I'm going to close public comment, bring it back to council. What are your thoughts, Mr. Barrick?
I've been educated on bees.
Yeah, absolutely. I have too.
Ways. I like bees, like most of us do.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a number of important questions have been raised. I'd like to see if the representative from the firm would like to take on any of the items brought by the public.
And I think that's a good idea. I'm just trying to get some feedback from any other comments before I'm going to give the representative a chance to respond, Ms. Deasy. Because there were a lot of points made, and maybe there's another side to some of the points too, in terms of the mitigation efforts that she's proposing. Go ahead.
I can't imagine why we would do this. $500 seems to be what we get, so I just don't understand why we would champion an out-of-the-area commercial operation when we have our sort of respected local environmental voices asking us not to do this. It doesn't make any sense to me. Thank you.
Right. I can see your perspective. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I did read the full staff report, and it said that it was science-based.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But it seemed more like marketing than science to me, and so I would like to. Thank you.
We don't do the clapping thing here, so that's not what we do. All right, ma'am from Towser, any last comments? I know there's a lot thrown at you from our public, which were all excellent comments. Anything else that you want to say to respond to anything that's been raised?
Yes.
Thank you.
We are looking at the resources in a wider margin. I think if we extend our lens a bit, if we are looking at that 1 to 3 mile radius, you can see through our research that there is forage. I think when you're on the ground and you're looking around you, you are not thinking of that 1 to 3 square mile. One of the comments was that there's nothing in the Napa Valley that needs this pollination, but I think we all probably go to the grocery store. If you were only eating things that were grown around you, you'd be having a lot of grapes and apples probably. So, we do pollinate over 30 crops only in Northern California. We do not leave Northern California. So I know sometimes we feel like you're not my direct neighbor, so you're not my neighbor, but we are. We're not very far away. I can get there in less than an hour. And keeping our bees close and our beekeepers close helps keep our food miles less. So the things that you're buying in the grocery store, there are some hidden additional environmental impacts of forcing beekeepers like us to take our bees further and further away. It is hurting those bees, and that probably would be what increases the risk to your native pollinators, is them having to be shuffled around more because our neighbors aren't allowing us to share their space with them. I wanted to comment on the difference between the specialized and the generalist. One is not a consensus of whether there is a negative impact. Some of that's because there's not enough research yet, but some of it is because some of the native bees have specialized bodies. They have specialized mouths that can unlock those native flowers that honeybees may not have access to. We've also found that because they're generalists, they will go further away to a more plentiful food source, and they'll leave some of those things behind for native bees. That being said, if we look at the map again from the Bumblebee Atlas, Napa County is not an area of high priority or even medium priority for native bees facing threat or extinction. And so I just wonder if this is a worry that might not be completely founded in science. And then just that, we rely on our neighbors throughout Northern California. We're really only in a 4-county range to allow us to put our hives where they can get forage and water, and our beekeepers can get to them and have them tested and treated and fed if they need to be. And so we just ask for collaboration. We want to keep food prices low. We don't want to have to charge these 70 different farmers and growers anymore because it's increasing our cost. We want to collaborate, and again, we would be willing to renegotiate the amount paid. We also would be willing to codify that we would only be there in that period of least overlap. And I just urge you to think about how us having hives there not only impacts you in St. Helena or Napa County, but we are feeding California and the world. A lot of things we pollinate are seeds that your growers are planting. So that's my response to I think most of those comments.
All right, thank you for those responses. Okay, what says the council? Yay or nay? Give me some straw votes. Anybody?
At this juncture, the risk is too high and outweighs the benefit. I really think it's important to protect our community of bees, birds, ducks, dogs, and people. So with that, I say no for now until we understand it more thoroughly, because I don't want to risk my environment. The old story, it's like, they brought the, rats from the boats to Hawaii, then they brought the mongoose to get rid of them, except, rats are nocturnal. Whoops. So I'd say before we, make the old Hawaiian whoopsie, let's think about it. And I'd say no on bees tonight. That's where I'm at.
All right. Ms. Badarotto, what do you think? I fooled you.
I'm in agreement with my fellow council members. I think for now, it's for me tonight. It's a no until we, get more research or more information. But I don't want to mess up that old saying, why would you try to fix something that's not broken?
Do you have any alternative views here or anything, middle ground views or anything that can lead us into a good path forward? Either one of you. Or are your thoughts consistent with the other thoughts that have been expressed?
My mind shifted to mongoose.
Okay. Yeah.
And
You're a
the
nocturnal
snake
person too, right?
populations. Yeah, I don't know a lot about this subject. I read what I could read, comments, and I've been all over the place on this this week. I think, right, I'm no for now.
All right.
Based on particularly what Kate said.
All right. Ms. Deasy? Yeah. I am sympathetic. I'm a no, but I am sympathetic. And I think we have to think of this a little bit more broadly. I think some of the commentary is, well, what's in it for us? I don't know if that's necessarily the way to look at it. I mean there's certainly a risk of ecological problems. There's no question about that. But I also want us to remind ourselves about how much we rely on other parts of California for our industry. Folks have to know, for example, that most of our vines are not, our young vines that are planted are not produced here. They're produced in areas in Central Valley and in Sonoma, many other areas throughout California. So we rely on that partnership, and so we have to kind of think, finding ways to produce food for our communities is important. So there's another side. There's tremendous value with honeybees, obviously. There's no question about it. And I know these folks are probably desperately trying to find places to put these bees, unfortunately. And I know that. Look, I happen to be married into a farming family that relies on bees. I know about bees. I know a lot about bees. But I think that the risk here is maybe too great. I'm trying to figure out what that discussion is for to accommodate something here, and I don't know what that is, as opposed to a binary hard, no, this is never going to happen. I would invite some folks to sort of, maybe not now, but get together to try to figure out, well, what is it? Do we start small, and how do we assess success? Because there may be that sweet spot where we go, well, maybe not 120, maybe it's something smaller, maybe it's in a different area, maybe it's in a different season. I think there's some work there to be had, because I think it's extremely important. We have so many tree crops and other great crops that the Californians produce, thankfully, to the world, frankly. And so I'm pro farming for sure, but I'm also cognizant of the ecological issues that are here. So that's kind of my take on it. I'm hopeful that there'll be a compromise or something where we can make this work for all of us. That's the way I think about the world. I want to find solutions rather than just hard, fast no's. And so I'll stop there. I'll ask for a motion to extend for until 9:30, please. I don't know we'll go that far, but I'd like to keep the option open. Because we have a 9 o'clock hard, and then I'll keep.
Motion to extend to 9:30.
Yeah, is there a second?
I'll second it.
I know that's cutting into our time here, and we're all tired. We had a closed session, but I want to keep this going. All in favor of the extension to 9:30, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. We're all good with that? Okay. Any opposed? All right, so we'll go there. I think we have enough direction that I don't think a vote is needed unless I'm persuaded otherwise. Mr. Leach or Mr. Walsh?
No, if you're not
Okay.
approving it, I think we're fine.
All right. Keep the conversation, whoever's involved in these conversations, open. You can see some of the points that we're concerned about, but they're not entirely insurmountable. There may be an approach that we can take. I know Ms. Deasy makes a good point about the amount of time and effort involved in some of these things. I think there's another side to it other than just the money factor. I think it's important for our world to produce fruit and vegetables for our people. So I think there is that part of it that is a good thing. But yeah, we'll just keep that conversation going, Mr. Leach. Thank you for presenting it.
Direction received.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. All right. Yeah, we were going to finish by 8 o'clock, but Mr. Barrett, no. All right, we're on to item 13, aren't we? I hope we are, yes. Thank you for keeping me on track. Item 13, new business. Yeah, estimated start time, all right. Let's see, so this is a consideration of a resolution appointing applicants to the Planning Commission. We had the pleasure of interviewing 4 outstanding candidates for 2 openings on the Planning Commission. Mr. Comello, do you want to make any other comments? You were there, or introduce anybody else who wants to make comments about what we're doing?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So yes, we currently have 2 vacancies on the Planning Commission. The council interviewed 4 candidates, and today is the time to make decision.
All right. Concise. I like that. All right. Any clarifying questions? I don't think there probably are at this point. I want to open it to public comment. Anybody wishing to make public comment on this item? We did hear a little bit of public comment, not much, at the interview session, and we've received, I'll point out, of course, that we have received a number of letters on these decisions, or decision, and so that's good, but I'll open it for public comment if anyone wants to approach. Seeing none, I will close public comment and bring it back to the council and invite a discussion. You know, the questions we asked during the interview process were great. Thank you for my colleagues who were there who asked some questions about process, about potential conflicts of interest, including apparent conflicts of interest, about the challenges that the city faces going forward over the next few years, about the difference in the minds of the applicants between a public process and a private decision-making process. To me, that's extremely critical because they're different, and they have different demands and expectations. And we got a lot of good feedback. As I said, I'm very pleased with the applicants and encourage others to apply. I know we have an opening on the Parks and Recreation Committee, so I'm encouraging folks to apply to that. But I want to just, the nomination is the mayor's with the consent of the council. I try to get along with my council, try to encourage cohesion here and try to incorporate as much of the ideas that I can think of. Ultimately, I have to make my own judgments, but it is with the consent of the council, so I may make a nomination. The council may say, nah, I'm not buying that. And that has happened from time to time. It's rare. Try to keep it rare. But I want to hear maybe from my colleagues who have reviewed the applications, had benefit of talking to many of the applicants, and have participated in interviews. So anybody have some ideas about what your mayor should do tonight? Don't be shy. Who should I not appoint? No. Ms. Deasy, of course, yeah.
I'll try.
Thank you. Sure, thanks.
Well, I thought they were all great, and I was impressed with kind of the depth and diversity of. Yeah, I thought they were all great. So it's a tough decision. I thought Hector brought this lifelong connection to St. Helena, and he's this valuable hands-on experience in building. I really loved what John had to say about coming to the table with a collaborative mindset and a philosophy of getting to yes. I thought I appreciated that comment. Federico had this kind of quiet but compelling thoughtfulness about him. It seemed pretty analytical. Michelle clearly has a strong grasp of the issues facing, the Planning Commission. So I thought they were great. I do think that sort of the policy fluency and analytical ability is important. I've realized as I've tried to follow the planning conversations that they're complicated. So that's all I have to say.
What do you think? Put you on the spot here, but that's my job.
Put me on the spot, Mr. Mayor. I wish we could. You have more people come to the table to volunteer for something, and especially with their passion, and all of them being able to bring something different was awesome. Really wonderful. Thank you all, by the way, for throwing your hat in the ring. Really appreciate it. I too, with Michelle, I am also a realtor, and I really appreciate Federico's insight into and passion for wanting to help people with their properties, and really wanting to dive in and do the analytics. Wonderful. And Michelle, with her true knowledge and understanding that she could bring to the table to the Planning Commission, I think would be hugely beneficial. I think, Hector's ability to, he's been there, he's been doing it, and he loves it, and his passion, and him wanting to, collaborate. I really appreciated that. And then John with his, being a businessman and knowing the town, and having lived here, and having his family have lived here. All of them, like I said, can bring so much to the table. So I don't think there's a wrong decision here.
All right. I've heard that before, Mr. Carmelo. That's great. I agree with the comments that have been made so far. It's a very difficult choice for me to make. I'm trying to size this up. What do you think, Mr. Summers? You had the opportunity to be there at the interview process, so you got a good sense of it.
Yes. Thank you for that. I would say I agree with my colleague. There's no bad choices. I just want to make sure we get Michelle on there. So that's where I'm at.
All right. We got one who's named names. You going to name names, Mr. Barrett?
I will not, sir. But I'll say I think it's great to see people. It takes a lot of time. I've been watching all the Planning Commission actually on video, right? They've got these on YouTube if you haven't seen it already. And it's on and the rest of the folks with Maya do their business. It's complex. There's a lot of complex items that come up. It can be contentious. And I think it's important that any member, takes it seriously and has some civility and some grace for both staff, right, and for the constituents that come to the Planning Commission. I think that's a big deal. There needs to be decorum, and I have no doubt with the new chair, Mr. Warner, that will be the case. Read the resumes. I've met with some of them outside of the interview process. Again, this is your choice, and I support that.
All right, appreciate that. Again, anybody wanted to make any other comments? Just want to make sure everybody, I tend to turn that off pretty quickly, so.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, ma'am. I knew you wanted to make a comment, so that's why I allowed you to speak.
I will speak very
go ahead.
quickly.
You raised your hand. That's good. Hi, Michelle.
I appreciate your guys' time today. This is a lot. I learned a ton of things. But I just wanted to say one thing that I do want to work collaboratively. I know my speech tonight was strong. I said some things that needed to be said. And I understand you have your opinions, and we all have our own opinions, and that's how we learn from each other. And I think that's what makes us stronger. So I appreciate just knowing that everyone here is serving our community, and that's what I want to do. And I don't have anything where I'm not going to do that all the time. But this one item, this speech that I had tonight, if you listen to the words, it was important to say. And it wasn't meant in any harm, but it needed to be said. So that's all I had to say.
All right, thank you for those comments. I will respectfully disagree with the way you approach that, but the substance is there. It's a heartfelt feeling that you have. I respect that. I respect people who are willing to speak their mind. I spoke earlier about, not necessarily ascribing motives and those kinds of things. And what is important to me is collegiality, the ability to collaborate, the knowledge that there may be apparent conflicts or true conflicts, that folks need to go through a kind of a couple steps in their mind going, okay, is this something that I feel that I can weigh in on, make a decision without fear or favor? It's extremely important, and I have to go through this analysis in my own mind as a lawyer every time I'm here. I have to go through that. So collegiality, the ability to collaborate, that point that you make, and it's a point that I often talk about. If you hear me, you know me, a lot of people know me, the sense of grace is critically important to me as a person, as somebody who's trying to teach my children how to live, who's trying to live the right way with my wife, who's trying to be a neighbor. Living with that sense of grace is something we have to strive to do better at in our community. It's not always a matter of being right, but I do respect folks who are willing to put themselves out and take a position. So that part I completely respect. I'm going to make this motion, and it's difficult for me to do, but I've listened to my colleagues. I've listened to the applicants. I've heard from one again tonight, which I totally appreciate. And I will make the motion with both members together, as it's stated in the resolution, because I think they're exceptionally qualified, and I think they will add value to our community and to the process. And that will be Michelle Covell and Hector. I want to reappoint Hector because he served a year, and I've not seen any reason to not allow you to go for another. It was a 4-year term, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? That's correct. Okay. So that is the motion, and I'll look for a second and then bring it back for a little bit of discussion. Hopefully I've got it right, but I can continue to listen to folks and discussion, but I'd like to have a second first.
I'll second.
All right. All right. Any further discussion as to that motion?
It's a great motion. I think it's a good motion. I think,
I
I
think I've
would
tried
have
to-
thirded the motion if I could have. It's a good motion.
I've tried to bring some balance to the decisions, the comments that were made as much as I can, and so I'll have a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, thank you.
Mayor Doring,
Yes.
Councilmember Barrick,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Spataroto,
Yes.
and Vice Mayor Deasy.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, congratulations and welcome aboard. Thank you all for reapplying, Mr. Lopez, especially for you. You know what it's like, and so willing to continue on is deeply gratifying for me. So good luck, and good luck, Michelle. Thank you for your applying, and look forward to your expertise. All right. Okay. We didn't need to go to 9:30. That's good. I think because we're late, we have council liaison reports. I have some reports, but I could wait till the next meeting. Anybody have anything that they want to talk about that they're dying to get off their chest? Michelle, you have anything? Yeah, please.
I would like to mention that the. Order. Oh, you want to bang it? No.
Okay, we're still continuing our business, folks. Order. We're still continuing our business. All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. All right. I don't like to use that gavel, as people know, but I like to be able to hear one another. Who was Ms. Deasy, where you're talking? Go ahead.
I will say quickly that.
Bring that mic closer. Yeah, thanks.
The Napa County Climate Action Committees, what they're working on is the RCAP, and I forget what it stands for, but it's a big regional document with respect to environmental planning. And we've spoken with the city manager. There will be information about it at the newsletter, and there will be public comment in a few places. But I just wanted to mention that if that's your thing, get ready, keep your eye out.
Yep. And as Mr. Leach knows, there's a lot of work being done on the permitting aspects of our wastewater, our stormwater permit, and how the county is interacting there. And I'll give you some information based on the last flood control meeting. A lot of new requirements. It's still in work, so nobody can commit to, you got to do this, you got to do that. We're still waiting. But this notion of these garbage collectors in storm drains and the cost of that. And so there's a number of these different items that are being proposed to enable us to keep our